Britain, and that is Ben Phillips. Ben, I love it when you come in armed with information.
Thank you,
armed
Martin.
with graphs. And the great illusion we've been span all along is that Brexit has knocked 4% off the UK's GDP. It's Brexit, what wrecked it? You've got some data which proves the precise opposite. First of all, before we get into your beautiful charts, tell us, where's this data come from? And it's copper-bottomed, isn't it?
It is copper-bottomed. It's not our data, Martin. A huge shout-out to our wonderful team at Brexit Facts for EU and CIB UK for collating this data. The data comes from the ONS, the Office of National Statistics, which is the UK data agency, and from Eurostat, the Eurozone's very own statistical agency. So this is like-for-like data that we can present to you for your viewers to see. We've got it in block chart form.
Let's show the first chart. This chart gets me very, very excited.
There we are. Look at
There's
that.
a proud Union flag tower for those who can't see if you're listening on a radio. This is a block chart there of 4 different nations, and this is their relative GDP, I believe, since Brexit. Ben, over to you.
There we are. Well, this is the data from 2016 to 2025, the second quarter of 2025. We were told that Britain would be a laggard because it's outside the European Union. Nothing could be further from the truth. The UK leads the pack at a healthy 12%. Look at that. France at 11.5%, Italy at 9.5%, and look at Germany down there at 5.6%. Supposedly the strongest economy in the European Union, and the UK's GDP is more than twice that.
Germany, they're languishing like a U-boat underwater. And look at Rule Britannia surfing atop the waves. On a serious point, this is conclusive proof. Brexit hasn't damaged the UK's GDP. If anything, it proves we're better off out.
Absolutely. It was a reckless prediction by the OBR, and it's been clung on to by Rachel Reeves as well, which further discredits her own credibility in our view. And I think we've got a second chart, haven't we, Martin? This is the equivalent chart, but over a timeline. So along the bottom of the axis there, it starts at Q2 of 2016 all the way along to the second quarter of 2025. And again, you can see the UK comfortably competing with its principal EU neighbours. There's a huge crater, as you can see, as a result of COVID. That's the elephant in the room that the establishment never talk about. And then the UK comfortably reasserts its economic growth and ends up heading the pack, as you say, by the end of the second quarter of 2025.
And it's just worth reiterating that. For those who can't see, there are 4 lines on this chart. One is in red, that's the United Kingdom. That's at the top. The second is France in second position. That's in blue. Italy in pink, languishing in third. Look at that, sinking like a torpedo to the bottom of the channel. Germany in fourth. Germany, always held up as the economic powerhouse of the European Union bloc. It's sinking like a stone. And I put it to you, Ben Phillips, every time we're told we'd be better off in, that's A, not true, and secondly, we'd be tied to even bigger financial implications now, not just paying in the annual dues, which I think you told us last time is what, we're £88 billion better off having not paid in since 2020, but we'd be liable for things like COVID loans and additional financial burdens on top.
It does not bear thinking about. You're absolutely right, Martin, as well as having to join the euro as well, so we'd surrender economic independence.
And it's really worth just getting that chart back on the screen again and look at that absolute crater in the middle of there caused by COVID lockdowns, the unfathomable damage caused to the European Union and the United Kingdom, to all of our economies. In fact, if you look at that, this is where Britain is at the very, very bottom. It's like being at the bottom of a trench of the sea, Ben Phillips. COVID annihilated the UK economy. And I put it to you, Ben Phillips, the cheerleaders who wanted that sooner, harder and longer were Keir Starmer's Labour Party.
They were, and in fact the entire political establishment and the media establishment drew a veil over that, and it's the elephant in the room that nobody dares speak about. But there's the real cause of our malaise.
Well, I love the smell of facts in the afternoon, especially Brexit facts. I think this has been put to bed. Anybody out there who sees anything on social media, be it from the Prime Minister, from the Chancellor, from Ed Davey, from any Remainer you see on social media, give them this. It's on my social media timeline. This is the proof. Another Brexit myth annihilated. Ben Phillips, beautiful stuff.
Thank you.
Chris Hope, let's get back into you, because you were at a rather special event last night. Tell us all about it.
Here it is. It was the Spectator Parliamentarian of the Year Awards when I was a judge in this year's awards as GBNews' political editor. Michael Gove was there, Sir James Cleverly. 4 of the awards given out, and things like Campaign of the Year, Disruptor, Leader, Minister. In all, there are around 14 awards. 4 of them went to Reform UK. So we saw people like, we had Campaign of the Year, that was Robert Jenrick, but others too. But the Politician of the Year went to someone we know very well at GBNews, Nigel Farage. And here was his speech. And excuse the quality, it was on my camera.
If you're here tonight as a Redmore Labour MP, struggling with your mental health, or you're a Conservative in the depths of despair, rather than last year saying, I'll wipe you out, this year I'm saying, please come to me for counselling. I can offer you a political future where you might just stay a Member of Parliament. But in line with Zia Youssef earlier, folks, 90% of this room may hate it, but we are going to win the next general election. So really.
You have it. He is convinced they're going to win the election. He's getting much more bullish this autumn. He wouldn't say this back in May. I said to him 4 times, can you imagine going through the front door of 10 Downing Street? He wouldn't say that. He said, you misunderstand me, I'm a campaigner. But he's now saying he thinks he can be Prime Minister. The other winners of awards last night, Zia Youssef, Danny Kruger and Dame Andrea Jenkins. Those are the winners, of course, from the Reform UK party. And we saw some winners from Labour and the Tories too.
And the Campaign of the Year so was Robert Jenrick. Was that the one where he was chasing people on the tube for fares? Was it that one?
Yes, that was one.
It was very effective. We've seen millions of times around the world, to be fair. It did cut through.
It did cut through, and it was campaigning rather than anything else. The Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, won an award. She gave an amusing, rather acid speech about other people in the room and Labour politicians. But that's the nature of the event.
What award did she win?
I think she won Rising Star of the Year. I can't see it on my list here, but she is certainly a one to watch. And but the problem is it doesn't always go that well for those who win it. But she is one to watch.
Superb stuff. Ben Phillips, quick comment from you there. Nigel Farage, we've never heard him be quite so bullish. He's always been very, very guarded about could he be the next Prime Minister. But I think it's fair to say he may have had a complimentary drink. Yes. On the way in.
I can't comment. You may have seen had a glass of champagne in his hand.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's the drink speaking, but he's definitely getting a bit more outspoken about the chances of winning the next general election.
What really interests me is what is going on behind the scenes at Reform, because the accusation that goes out is that it's a one-man band, it's all Nigel with 1 or 2 others. What I'd be really interested in finding out, and I've got contacts and I will find out, is what is going on behind the scenes in terms of recruitment, in terms of developing policy and philosophy. I think that's what we need to look out for.
Well, there's a long way to go, of course, before the next general election. Chris, you've got the line for us.
If I could just say, I did interview Kemi Baylock earlier, and she says she thinks going to win the next election. Now, she hasn't been that bold in her remarks.
Has she been drinking?
No, it was this morning over coffee. We spoke to her for GBNews. But she sees that the 5-way split in politics now is actually opening up a chance for the Tories to make a mark. You've got the bottom 4, apart from Reform UK, 10 points ahead, 2 points apart. So there's an opportunity, I think, the Tories see. And I think she is turning a corner. And it matters because from Monday, Tory MPs can submit letters of no confidence in her leadership if they want to. So almost just in time, she's turning it round.
The thing I think is really exciting about politics at the moment, irrespective of which team you back, is that we're no longer seeing, Liverpool and Manchester United winning the title every year, and it's just, that's a foregone conclusion. We're seeing the emergence of fresh parties, fresh challengers, the Greens, Reform UK, Plaid Cymru. We're seeing more diversity. It's a word I normally kind of cough about. But it's a healthy thing. People have got more choice.
They could be a bit like Nottingham Forest. They could win a league.
You had to go and win. We're winning a relegation battle, Chris. Thank you very much, Chris and Ben Phillips. Always an absolute pleasure. Now then, this is your there's very little time left in our latest Great British Giveaway to make sure you don't miss out on your chance to become our biggest winner of the year, not like Nottingham Forest, with a brand new motorhome worth £74 grand and £30,000 in tax-free cash. Here's all the details you need to enter.
Lines close tomorrow on your chance to win big, with a prize worth over £104,000. First, you could be driving away with this brand new Benamar Primera motorhome. Worth over £74,000, this luxury vehicle comfortably sleeps 4, has its own fitted kitchen and bathroom areas, and comes complete with fitted awning and bicycle rack. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a whopping £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. The coming year could be your best yet. But hurry, get your entry in now. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. The winner will be contacted live on GB News, week commencing 10th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good luck. And still to come, exactly 1 year on from the budget. How worried are Britain's farmers as yet another budget looms on November the 26th? We'll be heading down to the farm to find out. And also next, President Trump orders the immediate testing of the US nuclear arsenal just hours after Russia announced its testing of a nuclear-capable underwater drone. Are we heading for World War III? Or is this just Donald Trump flexing his muscles once again? This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Welcome back. It's 3:26. You're with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, Donald Trump has ordered the Pentagon to resume nuclear weapons testing for the first time in over 30 years. Now, this comes just hours after Russia announced that it had successfully tested a nuclear-capable underwater drone. Now, the US president revealed the move on social media, adding that he had no choice because of other countries testing their programmes. So, are we headed for World War III once again? Well, let's speak now to the former NATO commander, Rear Admiral Chris Parry, who joins me now. Always a pleasure, Chris, to have your esteemed company. Now, a lot of people, the doomsday emergence, so here we go, we're heading for meltdown. Or is this Donald Trump doing what he does? It's a power play. He's flexing. He's showing the world, we've all got big red buttons, but mine's the biggest.
Yeah, I mean, what we've got a Russian president who's essentially not winning the war in Ukraine as fast as he wants. He's not quite losing it yet, but he's going to lose his economy if he carries on the way he is. He knows that NATO countries are going to support Ukraine, and he hasn't been able to detach America from Europe. What I have to say is this big Poseidon torpedo, it weighs about 100 tons, about 20 meters long, and can travel about 6,200 nautical miles. It's one of a family of nuclear weapons that President Putin ordered in 2018. So there's some hypersonic missiles in there, a couple of cruise missiles, and a new intercontinental ballistic missile. So it's part of a family of weapons. And the way I would describe it, Martin, is rather like Hitler and his wonder weapons at the end of World War II. He's flashing them around. It's the big bad wolf saying to the three little piggies, we'll blow your house down if you don't do as you're told. And simply President Trump is saying, look, yeah, you've got a big fist. I've got a big fist too. And you know that I can do you a lot of damage.
Because he famously said, didn't he, to Kim Jong-un in the previous regime, he said, you've got a red button, but I've got one and it's bigger. And it actually works. And at the moment, Vladimir Putin is stubbornly refusing to sit down and negotiate over Ukraine. We've seen the situation with the Ayatollahs in Iran. Donald Trump taking out their nuclear program, and he's meeting President Xi, of China. So is this just one of those big power plays, just to let them know we're still in the room and we're still serious?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at all the indices, Martin, the Americans aren't going away. Everybody keeps forecasting the decline of the United States relative to these other powers. But if you look at all the real important indexes, from military power through energy, through economic strength and durability, it's the United States that's going to be there standing at the end of the day. And as President Clinton once said, if you bet your shirt on the Americans actually losing the geopolitical race, then you're going to lose that shirt. You've got, the prospect of China probably on a spiral of decline after about 2032. You've got Russia in all sorts of problems, Iran wondering what on earth it's going to do to its former ambitions, and North Korea, again, as you say, acting tough. But as long as the Americans keep their armor bright, we'll all be safe.
And Chris Parry, that phrase that Donald Trump keeps repeating, peace through strength, the show of strength to show that we mean business if you mess with us and we're serious about it. In the meantime, he successfully managed to get NATO finally, after decades of stubborn resistance, to cough up their 5% of GDP. So the world is rearming. Donald Trump seems to be leading that arms race.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I've always said in my books, and certainly talking to good people like yourself, is that peace doesn't keep itself in a competitive world. And wars are caused essentially by what I call windows of vulnerability on one side and windows of opportunity on the other. Where they meet, you'll find that people will take advantage of that. And if you want peace, and we're not in a period of peace, Martin, we're in what I call deterrent time. We can't possibly call the competitive way in which China, Russia and Iran are facing at the moment anything like peace. They're interfering with our underwater cables. They're sabotaging our infrastructure. We're seeing extensive espionage and all sorts of dirty tricks. That's not peace. We have to deter this sort of thing and stop it escalating further.
And Chris Parry, just to end on a lighter note, it's not quite time yet then to start digging a nuclear bunker and filling up with loads of thousands of cans of soup and rice pudding, is it?
Yeah, you won't last long on soup and rice pudding, of course. There is a serious point there, Martin. If you've got money to invest, you've got to invest in concrete and diggers, because it's not just nuclear weapons we've got to worry about. Just look at the drones and missiles that are being arrayed against Europe right now. The smart money right now will be investing in what I call the new stealth environment, and that's underground.
Superb stuff, Chris Parry. Fascinating as ever. Thanks for joining us today, former NATO Commander, Rear Admiral Chris Parry. Superb. Thank you. And lots more still to come between now and 4 p.m, including it's been exactly 1 year on from that last budget. But how worried are Britain's farmers as another budget looms into view? We'll be heading down onto the farm to find out next. But first, it's time for your headlines, and here's Sam Francis.
3:31, the headlines this hour. Sir Keir Starmer has ruled out an investigation into Chancellor Rachel Reeves after she admitted breaking housing rules by renting out her London home without a proper licence. Ms Reeves says it was an inadvertent error, and the Prime Minister says the matter is now closed. But the Conservatives insist she should face a full inquiry. And it's not just the housing row. Kemi Badenoch's also warning Rachel Reeves should be sacked if she raises taxes in next month's budget. The Tory leader accused Labour of high taxes and out-of-control spending. But Labour insists it's fixing long-term damage and putting money back in people's pockets. A 22-year-old Afghan asylum seeker has appeared in court today accused of murdering dog walker Wayne Broadhurst in West London. Safi Dawood's also charged with attempting to kill 2 people he lived with, a 45-year-old man and a 14-year-old boy. Both are still in hospital. Well, police are at the scene of a helicopter crash near Doncaster. The aircraft, believed to be a private flight from Gamston Airport, came down in a field. At this stage, there is no word on casualties. A French court has sided with Prince and Princess of Wales, ruling that Paris Match magazine seriously violated their privacy by publishing long-lens photos of their children on a private skiing trip. Donald Trump's announced plans to resume US nuclear weapons testing for the first time in more than 30 years. He says it's needed to keep pace with Russia and China ahead of talks with President Xi in Seoul. Those are the headlines. Martin, straight back with you after this.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are, online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Hello there, good afternoon. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. After a chilly start this morning, tonight will be milder. There will be some spells of rain though, and it is going to be rather windy across much of the country, particularly across Northern Ireland, where we'll start to see outbreaks of rain this afternoon, all down to low pressure, pushing in these frontal systems, so cloud, rain, and also some quite strong gusty winds. Where we have our weather warning issued for Northern Ireland, we could see wind speeds of between 50 to 60 miles per hour. It's going to be turning blustery for all though. This band of heavy rain shifts its way eastwards into the North Sea, turning a little drier for a time as we head closer towards dawn, though we can't rule out some showers lingering around for some. Nevertheless, though, it is going to be a milder start to the day, many towns and cities in the low double digits. So we'll see a mix of clouds, some clearer skies to start the day. There will be some showers quickly moving through though, particularly across the south, some heavy showers pushing up from the English Channel there. Some of these could be quite heavy and it is going to be quite blustery, particularly around any western coast. But for Northern Ireland, it is going to be a much brighter start than what we saw this morning. And similar across parts of Scotland, a mix of clouds, some clearer skies towards the north, though we can't rule out a risk of showers. And that is the theme through much of the day, though some of these showers could be quite heavy, some bring some quite intense downpours, particularly this area into the west as we head towards the afternoon. Some strong blustery winds and some heavy bands of rain. This could bring in some hail and thunder. And it is going to be quite a blustery day for all, but with the slightly blustery weather, that does bring in some milder air, so highs reaching around 16 to 17 degrees Celsius in the south. Through into the evening, for any trick-or-treaters that might be out and about, there'll be once again a mix of some drier spells and also some showers. These showers turning to quite an intense band of rain across parts of the southwest through the course of the evening. And as we progress into the weekend, the showery theme continues, though it should start to feel a little bit milder from Monday onwards.
Thank you, Britain, for making us the fastest growing news website in the UK. We're truly humbled, and we couldn't have done it without you.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. The M8 is delayed at junction 15 due to a broken down vehicle. Motorists should plan for additional travel time. A weight restriction on the M48 limits heavy goods vehicles to 7.5 tonnes. In Derbyshire, the A38 southbound between the A50 and junction A5132 is congested, causing a 15-minute delay. In Surrey, an overturned vehicle has closed all lanes on the M25 anti-clockwise between junction 10 and 9. And on the trains, there is no service on the Gatwick Express between London Victoria and Brighton, with disruption on Greater Anglia services between Ipswich and Cambridge. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Welcome back. Time is 3:37. You're with me, Martin Daubney, on GB News. Now, today marks exactly 1 year on since the infamous 2024 autumn budget. And GB News is meeting with farmers and industry leaders who can outline the damage they believe inheritance tax has done in just 1 short year. Well, GB News' national reporter Will Godley joins us now. Will, welcome to the show. It's 1 year on from the event some people are calling Farmageddon. What's the latest down on the farm?
Yeah, of course, it happened the day before Halloween, and farmers saying for the last 12 months it's been all tricks and no treats when it came to the budget. Of course, having big consequences for them with changes to the inheritance tax, and also providing uncertainty over future changes in the upcoming budget, creating a real difficult time for farmers. The farm here at South Fawley Farm, they said it's the toughest 12 months that they've faced in the last the toughest year they've ever had. And with equipment like this behind me, this is a big tractor and also a crop sprayer, it means that they're financially not in a position to be able to buy machines like the stuff behind me. And this is the farm's machinery supplier. James Cox, thanks for joining us on GB News. What kind of an impact is this having on you?
Well, obviously, we've seen a significant reduction in sales inquiries, and new and second-hand machinery. So yeah, it's having a big effect on our business. And machinery dealers generally, we're starting to see some casualties with the loss of a machinery dealer in Shropshire and Wales. And now it's reaching further to our supply chain, to the manufacturing businesses themselves. We've lost one recently that's pertinent to us, Schaefer Machinery. And it's a big hit. It's a big hit.
And when we think about the budget and the impact on farmers, we think about on the farm. But to hear you say that, this is further afield, but still jobs in the rural community being affected, what kind of an impact is it having?
Well, with the manufacturing side, it's not just rural jobs. Yes, it's an agricultural manufacturer, but they've got fabrication businesses supplying them, paint shops, electronic specialists, which are not agriculturally based. They're in the wider community in towns and cities around the country. So, yeah, it's going to have a significant knock-on effect to them.
And when we're thinking about this budget coming up, what would you like to see the government do in terms of recognising the rural community?
I think that's the first point, is recognising that we have a rural community and it's struggling at the moment, and some clarity moving forward as to some sort of support network where the SFI is going and schemes like that, so farmers have some confidence over the next year or two as to where their finances might be, and then they might start investing again in equipment.
Well, James, thank you very much for joining us on GB News. We have heard from the government. They have said that most estates claiming agricultural and business property reliefs will be unaffected by the changes that they made in their last budget, and that they said to support farmers, we're providing a record £11.8 billion for sustainable farming. But of course, still a lot of uncertainty on British farms, Martin.
Much there, Will. Superb coverage. Thank you both there down on the farm. Now let's continue the conversation. Could there be a route out of this that leaves everybody happy? That's what I want to talk about next. And I'm joined by the commentator, Martin Abrams. Martin, a pleasure to have your company. I really, really enjoy talking to you for a perspective from the left, because let's be honest, Nobody is going to just write this off and say, yeah, we're going to go back to how we were before. The government needs money. You and I both understand the government has an empty biscuit tin. Something out in the private eye today, Martin, which caught my eye, and it's been something we saw in farming today from my friend Martin Williams, who informed me, and that there could be a change into how the taxation is gathered. It's something I think you might like, and that is, it's being discussed that small holdings, they'll be tax exempt, but we could taper it up to take those huge farmers, the ones that no doubt yourself, the huge landowners, the multi-million-pound farms, perhaps those shoulders should bear a heavier weight, but we could spare the small holdings so they don't have to lose their farms. Does that idea have the kind of merit that might grab your attention?
Yeah, and good afternoon, Martin. Always good to speak to you. I mean, my view is that the government needs to ensure that the vast majority of genuine working family farms keep their full relief, because we all rely on farms, we all rely on the food that they produce, and any reforms to the inheritance tax system must target large, wealthy landowners that are treating farmland as essentially a tax haven. You know, people like Jeremy Clarkson that admitted that he invested in a farm to get that tax relief, because what we've got in this country, Martin, is still essentially a very feudal landowning system. We've got an extreme concentration of land ownership. And there's a very interesting author called Guy Shrubsole who has calculated that about 1% of the population owns half of our land area in England. And he also estimates that the aristocracy and the landed gentry own 30% of that land. So we're talking about people that have been ennobled, in the royal family, like people that are dukes, people like the Duke of Devonshire, who owns, that entire Chatsworth estate and, dozens of villages in Derbyshire. So, those with the broadest shoulders, people like that, need to be putting their hand in their pockets. That is a patriotic thing to do when our country is, struggling financially, when the social fabric of our country is essentially disintegrating. When you have got landowners with such extreme wealth like that, the logical thing to do is to tax them, and not people with things like small holdings that are working hard every single day, getting up, working 18-hour days to produce the food that we have to put on our plates.
Martin Abrams, this is why I love having you on the show. I agree with you. And so do the vast majority of small holding farmers out there that I speak to week in, week out. In fact, they're messaging me right now. Farmers are watching this conversation we're having now and saying, this is what we want. We want to sit down with the government and make sure that the multi-generational small holding farmers that are making a pittance anyway, they're the only industry in the world who has their prices decided for them by the big supermarkets, to keep those people afloat, the family holdings, the small businesses, and to put the burden on those huge landowners, the Black Rocks and the likes of them. I think that's a fair resolution, and I wish that Angela Regal and the Labour government would listen.
Well, this is the thing. In politics, Martin, you need to be bold, you need to be brave. If you want to take on the vested interests of this company, you need to have some cojones. Excuse my Mexican or French or whatever language that is. Fine. But you really need to be able to take on these vested interests. But what we've got with this Labour government at the moment, they are in the pocket of these people, Larry Fink from BlackRock and all these big, speculators and billionaires. The Labour government, Labour Party was established to fight for working class people, okay? And, it is arguable as to whether farmers are part of that working class. But these farmers work tirelessly to put food on our table and, and protecting the rural economy and our rural, way of life. As someone who lives in a big city like London, people might say, what do I know about that? But, I grew up on the edge of the Peak District in East Manchester. So I know all about That sort of life. But it is hard, and there are a lot of farmers that you've spoken to on this show, Martin. They are really angry at these reforms. I think that's probably because they're not being targeted well enough, or they're not being, always explained well enough. But it's really important that those with the broadest shoulders get their hands in their pockets.
Martin, we can totally agree on that, and we come from quite different political backgrounds, even though we're both called Martin. Superb to have you on the show, Martin Abrams. Thank you very much. Always a pleasure. Cheers, mate. Now I've got some breaking news for you now, and it's this. A 70-year-old man has died after a helicopter crashed into a field near Doncaster, South Yorkshire, police have said. And the pilot of the aircraft, a 41-year-old man, and 2 other passengers, a 10-year-old boy and a 58-year-old woman, suffered only minor injuries following the incident in Bentley this morning. And more on that story as we get it throughout the rest of the show. And meanwhile, if you're in search of some holiday sun, here is the forecast for some of the top European destinations.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
If you are looking to escape the very mixed weather across the UK, well, it's going to also be mixed across much of the Mediterranean. Not everywhere. We are going to see some fine weather on Friday through parts of Greece, particularly the Greek islands. But we've got this area of low pressure bringing some heavy rain to southern Italy, showers to northern Italy as well. Mostly fine to eastern Spain for now, but some wet and windy conditions across Portugal, and they spread east, albeit slowly, through the weekend and early next week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
I thought I'd heard everything in terms of council insanity, but charging people £1,000 to park on their own driveway, this takes the biscuit.
I think, firstly, the amount that they are charging is a huge amount for parking on your own drive, but equally, that sheer amount and the threat of court action causes a lot of anguish and grief, especially to the older people, to vulnerable, to disabled people that I've all come across have had this. And to make it even worse, the council has not actually ever once collected the £1,000 fine. So they're sending letters out, threatening a £1,000 fine, and they've never, ever actually collected that fine. It just causes complete unnecessary misery for people.
Well, that's the definition of insanity. To threaten a £1,000 fine but not actually collect the fine. So what's the point?
I don't know what the point. There is a bit of a possible conflict of interest because the people sending out the letter are Balfour Beatty, who subcontract the roads for Southampton Council, and obviously they also will install drop curbs.
Funny that. So what's happening here is you get a £1,000 threat through the post, and by the way, if you want to avoid that, simply come to the council. And by the way, we can install one of these drop curbs in for you at a handsome price of £800. £800 to get a curb in outside your house when you don't need it. You can go up a normal curb as it is, and I put it to you, every Englishman's home is his castle. This is the violation of that.
Well, we've had cases where people are in council homes and they've been there for 40 years. They've been parking on their drive for 40 years, and suddenly they get a letter saying, sorry, £1,000 fine.
GB News, the People's Channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Welcome back. It's 10 to 4. Now, there's been a huge reaction to the story we did at the top of this hour about Brexit. And it's that Chancellor Rachel Reeves. Well, she's claimed that Brexit is partly to blame for the high inflation in the UK. And she made the case for rebuilding ties with the European Union during her visit to Saudi Arabia earlier this week. Well, once again, leaving the European Union has been blamed for Britain's poor economic performance. But what is the truth behind these claims? Well, earlier in the hour, we had Ben Phillips in, and he gave us two charts. They've been massively well received on social media. Let's go through them again. This is one of those great Remainer myths. We're about to sink to the bottom of the English Channel. You can see on your screen four bar charts there. This is the cumulative GDP of the United Kingdom, France, Italy and Germany since Britain left the European Union, since June 2016. The figures are from the ONS for the United Kingdom and for Eurostat for France. These figures, sorry, for the European Union, these figures are the real deal. You can see quite clearly there's been no 4% fall in GDP due to Brexit. In fact, the United Kingdom has outperformed France, Italy and Germany. Almost double, more than double actually, Germany languishing in third at the bottom of the channel like a sunk U-boat. Britain didn't get worse by leaving the European Union. It improved. Now let's get to our next chart. Look at this here. Here's the truth. Here's what's actually to blame for our economy having cratered. You see that huge plummet in the middle there? It looks like someone's died on a cardiogram. Well, that's what happened. It's COVID. Look at what happened. That red line is Britain now at the top in 2025, but at the very bottom of the abyss in 2020. Look at the damage COVID wreaked upon our economy. We were the worst hit of all of the nations on that chart. The very bottom was the United Kingdom, followed by France, Italy, Germany. But now we're at the top. We've recovered. We're number one. We're 12% up. France, 11.5% up. Italy, 9.5% up. And Germany, 5.6% GDP increase this is since Britain left the European Union. I put it to you, is Germany's imperiled economy down to Brexit? Is France's imperiled economy down to Brexit? Is Italy's? Is Britain's position at the top of the tree here because of Brexit? Or is only anything bad because of Brexit, like inflation, I don't know, like a comet hitting the Earth? Brexit gets blamed for everything. The great two Remainer myths, that we could return people on the double agreement, that's a myth, and it's a myth that 4% was knocked off GDP of the United Kingdom. Thanks to my friends at Facts4EU for doing that, Lee Evans and Ben Phillips. I love it when facts take down these great Remainer myths. Now, coming up next, should Rachel Reeves resign over her rental error and her rumoured income tax hike? That's the story that's taken the airwaves this year. Angela Rayner, she copped the bullet because of her stamp duty. Will Rachel Reeves go the same way over her rental misdemeanour? That's next with me, Martin Daubney, on GB News, Britain's News Channel. Now,
expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good afternoon. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. After a chilly start this morning, tonight will be milder. There will be some spells of rain though, and it is going to be rather windy across much of the country, particularly across Northern Ireland, where we'll start to see outbreaks of rain this afternoon, all down to low pressure, pushing in these frontal systems, so cloud, rain, and also some quite strong gusty winds. Where we have our weather warning issued for Northern Ireland, we could see wind speeds of between 50 to 60 miles per hour. It's going to be turning blustery for all though. This band of heavy rain shifts its way eastwards into the North Sea, turning a little drier for a time as we head closer towards dawn, though we can't rule out some showers lingering around for some. Nevertheless, though, it is going to be a milder start to the day, many towns and cities in the low double digits. So we'll see a mix of clouds, some clearer skies to start the day. There will be some showers quickly moving through though, particularly across the south, some heavy showers pushing up from the English Channel there. Some of these could be quite heavy and it is going to be quite blustery, particularly around any western coast. But for Northern Ireland, it is going to be a much brighter start than what we saw this morning. And similar across parts of Scotland, a mix of clouds, some clearer skies towards the north, though we can't rule out a risk of showers. And that is the theme through much of the day, though some of these showers could be quite heavy. Some bring some quite intense downpours, particularly this area into the west as we head towards the afternoon. Some strong blustery winds and some heavy bands of rain. This could bring in some hail and thunder. And it is going to be quite a blustery day for all, but with the slightly blustery weather, that does bring in some milder air, so highs reaching around 16 to 17 degrees Celsius in the south. Through into the evening, for any trick-or-treaters that might be out and about, there'll be once again a mix of some drier spells and also some showers. These showers turning to quite an intense band of rain across parts of the southwest through the course of the evening. And as we progress into the weekend, the showery theme continues, though it should start to feel a little bit milder from Monday onwards.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for helping us reach 8 million followers across social media. Thank you for making us a part of your daily life.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The M8 is restricted at junction 15 exit slip due to a broken down vehicle. Motorists should use caution and allow extra travel time. Expect congestion on the A4232 northbound from the A48 interchange to M4 junction 33. In Derbyshire, there's congestion on the A38 southbound with 10-minute delays. All lanes are closed on the M25 anti-clockwise between junction 10 and 9 due to an overturned vehicle. And on the trains, Gatwick Express services are suspended between London Victoria and Brighton. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
It's the final week to see how you can become our biggest winner this year. First, you could be driving away with this brand new Benamar Primera motorhome. This luxury vehicle comfortably sleeps 4, has its own fitted kitchen and bathroom areas, and comes complete with fitted awning and bicycle rack. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a whopping £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos. What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the cars. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Very, very good afternoon to you. It's 4 p.m. and welcome to the Martin Daubney Show here on GB News, broadcasting live across the UK, all the very latest news, debates and analysis all the way through until 6 p.m. It's coming up on today's action-packed show.
Rachel Reeves raised taxes, then she should go. If she has broken the law, then she should go.
Pressure is mounting on Keir Starmer to sack his under-fire Chancellor Rachel Reeves after she was caught illegally renting out her home. Should she stay or should she go? I'll be joined in the studio by Lee Anderson and also by Steve McCabe, former Labour MP. And President Donald Trump orders the immediate testing of the US nuclear arsenal just hours after Russia announced its testing of a nuclear-capable underwater drone. Meanwhile, Rachel Reeves is also gearing up to blame Brexit for a 4% drop in the UK's GDP, and that will pave the way for a potential stinging 2% income tax hike. But on today's show, I'll exclusively reveal data that finally torpedoes latest great Remainer lie and proves conclusively that we're better off out. And the Reform candidate for Caerphilly claims he was subjected to a vicious hate campaign in the recent by-election. I'll be joined in the studio by Claire Powell, who will reveal exclusive pictures of vandalism from what's being called the most abusive election in living memory. And that's all coming up in your next hour. Welcome to the show. It's always a pleasure to have your company. Should she stay or should she go? The under-fire Chancellor Rachel Reeves has been caught illegally renting out her home without sufficient paperwork in the borough of Southwark. A £900 licence required to rent out properties. Now, some might say that's more pointless red tape, the kind of bureaucracy we should be getting into extinction. However, the law is the law. The Chancellor surely should know that. Could this potentially be another Angela Rayner Mark II? Or is it all a storm in a teacup? So far, the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, is standing by her woman with less than a month to go till a budget, which could be extremely painful. Is it time for the Chancellor herself to bite the bullet? Get in touch. GBNews.com/Your Say is the way to do so. But now it's time for your headlines, and here's Sam Francis.
Martin, thank you, and good afternoon to you. Just after 4 o'clock, the top story this hour. Keir Starmer has ruled out an investigation into his Chancellor after Rachel Reeves admitted breaking housing rules by renting out her London home without the proper licence. Miss Reeves apologised for what she called an inadvertent error, saying she hadn't realised a selective licence was required. The Prime Minister says he's satisfied the matter is now closed, but the Conservatives insist the Chancellor should face a full inquiry. Well, Kemi Badenoch told us earlier Rachel Reeves should be sacked if she found the law has been broken.
I've just spoken to 2 landlords this morning who rent homes in Southwark, and they said that they spent thousands of pounds on these lettings regulations, and she should not be allowed to get off scot-free. I think there needs to be an investigation. If she has broken the law, then she should go. In Keir Starmer's own words, lawmakers should not be lawbreakers.
Kemi Badenoch has also warned that Rachel Reeves should be sacked if she raises taxes next month in the budget. At a pre-budget rally, the Conservative leader accused Labour of breaking promises and delivering high taxes and out-of-control spending. It follows Sir Keir Starmer's refusal to repeat his pledge not to raise income tax, national insurance or VAT, fuelling speculation of major tax hikes to fill a now £20 billion hole in the public finances. Labour says the Conservatives have no credibility, though, on the economy and insists it's focused on fixing the long-term damage and putting money back into people's pockets. Well, let's take you live now to scenes in Doncaster where a 70-year-old man has been confirmed dead after a helicopter crashed in a field there. Emergency crews were called to Ings Road in Bentley just after 10 o'clock this morning, with 4 people believed to be on board that helicopter. The pilot and a 41-year-old man and 2 passengers, a 58-year-old woman and a 10-year-old boy, suffered only minor injuries. South Yorkshire Police, though, say the victim was pronounced dead at the scene. A joint investigation is now underway and officers are appealing for eyewitnesses or anyone with footage on the aircraft before the crash to come forward. In other news, a former Afghan asylum seeker has appeared in court accused of murdering a dog walker and stabbing 2 people he lived with in West London. 22-year-old Safi Dawood is charged with 1 count of murder, 2 counts of attempted murder. He's been remanded in custody after a brief hearing this morning. Emergency services were called to Midhurst Gardens in Uxbridge on Monday evening to reports of a triple stabbing where 49-year-old Wayne Broadhurst was killed while out walking his dog. Prosecutors say Dawood had been lodging with the two victims, a 45-year-old man and a 14-year-old boy. The Prince and Princess of Wales have condemned what they described as grossly intrusive paparazzi photos taken of their children during a private holiday in France. A French court ruled that Paris Match magazine breached the family's privacy and image rights after publishing long lens photos and personal details of their trip to the Alps in April. The article included shots of William, Kate and their 3 children out on the slopes, taken without consent. The court found the magazine had seriously violated their private life, siding with the couple in their legal action. President Donald Trump has announced plans to resume US nuclear weapons testing for the first time in more than 30 years. In a post on social media, he said the move was needed to keep pace with Russia and China. That was just hours before meeting with President Xi Jinping in South Korea. The US hasn't carried out a nuclear test since 1992, but Mr. Trump said the process will begin immediately, marking a major shift in US defence policy. And the UK government has chartered emergency flights to help British nationals leave Jamaica after Hurricane Melissa tore across the Caribbean. Up to 8,000 Britons are believed to be on the island, now reeling from one of the strongest Atlantic hurricanes in history. Tourists have been ordered to stay indoors, many still locked down in hotels, as Jamaica continues to recover from widespread devastation. The Foreign Office says the flights will be helping those unable to return home commercially, while efforts continue to restore regular services for stranded holidaymakers. Those are the latest headlines. I'll be back with you shortly. Next, though, a quick look at the markets.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
And the pound will buy you $1.3173 and €1.1361 euros. The price of gold is £3,026, 3 pence per ounce. And the FTSE 100 is at 9,699 points.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Thank you, Sam. Now, the leader of the Conservative Party, of course, Kemi Badenoch, has said this morning that Rachel Reeves should be sacked if she raises taxes in next month's budget. Now, this comes, of course, as the Chancellor is reportedly considering a 2p rise in income tax for everybody in a move that would breach Labour's manifesto promises. Well, GB News' political editor Christopher Hope has been speaking with Kemi Badenoch this morning, and let's take a listen.
Kemi Badenoch, thank you for joining us on GB News. On the future of Rachel Reeves as Chancellor, should Southwark Council investigate her rule breach?
Absolutely. I've just spoken to 2 landlords this morning who rent homes in Southwark, and they said that they spent thousands of pounds on these lettings regulations, and she should not be allowed to get off scot-free. I think there needs to be an investigation. If she has broken the law, then she should go. In Keir Starmer's own words, lawmakers should not be lawbreakers.
Why do you think the PM was so quick to act on it last night, or to clear her after a very brief review, apparently, by the standards expert?
Well, he's had just one scandal, one problem after another. Before Peter Mandelson, it was Angela Rayner. Before her, it was Louise Hay. It's just endless for him. I think he's worried about losing yet another cabinet minister after a reshuffle. But the truth is that we have a budget at the end of this month. She's supposedly the person writing that budget. She is very distracted. It would create some problems for them. We need them to stop being distracted and focus on building a stronger economy. That's why we told them to stop the tax rises and start cutting spending.
You're saying here, aren't you, that if you want to get Rachel Reeves sacked, she puts up taxes, but your party put up taxes for 14 years. Well, GBNews viewers will be shouting at the TV saying you had 14 years not to cut taxes.
We didn't put up taxes for 14 years. We put up taxes after COVID, where we paid people to stay at home. Everyone understood that we'd spent quite a lot of money. And even then, we knew that taxes were too high. We were trying to get growth. What Labour should have done was picked up some of our growth policies, getting people into work. We had welfare savings. They ignored them. And now more and more people are staying at home. We had 2,000 people after COVID signing on each day for health and sickness benefits. That number is now 5,000 according to the government's own figures. That is crazy. There are 6 million people out of work who should be in work. Who's paying for it? Your viewers, a lot of those people who are out there working really hard. We need to get the economy back on track.
Why have you watered down your plans to tackle indefinite leave to remain?
I haven't watered down the plans to tackle indefinite leave to remain. We had an amendment for a bill. That bill has now gone to report stage, and we're now leaving the ECHR. Our plan is to make sure that foreigners cannot claim benefits in this country. Now that we're leaving the ECHR, we can change that. So we've actually toughened our policy on indefinite leave to remain.
You're approaching your 1-year anniversary as leader. There's been some criticism though this week, hasn't there, from Theresa May and John Major. Theresa May on Monday said that your plans to dealing with the climate change by ripping up the Climate Change Act risk chasing votes from reform at the expense of the wider electorate. John Major, he says you could be seriously alienating voters with your plans on Europe for climate change and aid. Why are these two senior Tories criticising you in this big week for you?
You will have to ask them. I'm afraid that the plans that we have for net zero are not working. We are deindustrializing. Another company, Petrofac, has just decided that it cannot go on in Scotland. Ineos has left Grangemouth Refinery, Harbour Energy. We are losing our oil and gas industry. We are losing industry. Manufacturers are leaving. And a lot of it is down to these net zero policies. And on top of that, people are paying sky-high energy bills at home. We have to look after our people. We're not going to sort out the climate if we bankrupt the country. And what I'm doing is making sure that what we do on the environment actually makes sense. It's not just slogans for people to strut around on the world stage.
How's your first year been? You've gone backwards in the polls. Is that a worry for you?
Well, we always knew it was going to be very difficult. The political landscape has fragmented. It's no longer just about Labour and Conservatives. Other protest parties are doing well. We've seen the Greens polling at the same as Labour. Reform is there, Lib Dems are there. But there is all to play for. The truth is we've just been kicked out after a historic defeat. It's going to take time. The last oppositions were there 18 years, 13 years, 14 years. I'm going to do this in 4 years.
And you'll be there for the election?
Of course.
And just finally, colleagues of yours can put letters of no confidence in you from Monday. What's your message to them?
I don't have a message to them. This is something that has always been the case for Conservative Party leaders. I'm focused right now on what Labour are doing. They're making a mess of our economy. And if Rachel Reeves raised taxes, then she should go.
Kemi Badenoch, thank you for joining us today on GB News. Thank you.
That was Chris Hope with Kemi Badenoch earlier on this morning. And I'm joined in the studio in Westminster by the former the Labour peer, Lord Steve McCabe, of course, former Labour MP Steve McCabe. A pleasure to have your company, as always. Before we talk about the embattled Chancellor Rachel Reeves, you sat and listened to that Kemi Badenoch interview there. How do you think she's doing so far?
I think she's in the unfortunate position that it doesn't matter what she says, really. I'm not sure anybody is listening to her right now. And that's partly her, and it's just partly the position the Tory party are in.
You think that's because the fact whoever took over the Conservative helm is something of a poisoned chalice, a bit of a hospital tackle?
Well, I think that it's that, but also, I mean, listening to her banging on about taxes and trying to pretend that the Tory party didn't raise them to the highest level since World War II during their period in office just makes a nonsense of what she's saying.
OK, that brings us on to the meat and drink of the day, Rachel Reeves, and the fate that she should face. Kemi Badenoch there, resolutely clear. Southwark Council should investigate, and if she's broken the law, she should go. It seems pretty clear that she has broken the law. So on that basis, Steve McCabe, should the Chancellor bite the bullet?
Well, first of all, I don't think she's broken any law because, as I understand it, this is a regulation that's been passed by a local authority.
Tomatoes. She's admitted it was illegal.
Yes, but some local authorities have this licensing system. Some don't. Some apply it across the whole borough. Some only apply it to a number of wards. It is pretty confusing. And, you know, if Kemi Badenoch wants Southwark to investigate, maybe they should investigate. In fact, maybe every London borough should investigate how many members of Parliament. Now, how many other people are renting without a licence and don't know that they're doing it? I mean, personally, I think that the obligation should be on the authority to make clear what the requirement is. But, you know, as far as I know, Rachel Reeves didn't realise this. I must admit, I was flabbergasted when I saw that there was a licensing requirement in Southwark, because I've never seen it anywhere that I've looked. And when it was brought to your attention, she applied for a licence. I mean, what's unusual about that?
Steve McCabe, you could justifiably argue this is the kind of pointless town hall bureaucracy, the kind of red tape that strangles the country that we don't need. But it's the law, and it costs £900 for a licence. And a further add, that's Eddie Reeves, Rachel Reeves' sister, the former Labour Party chair. She lives in the borough. She's the MP for one of the constituencies in the area. So it seems to me that when the Labour Party say, oh, they were just confused, they just didn't realise, as with Angela Rayner, over property, again, is it fair to say that the top table at the Labour Party seem very easily confused when it comes to property?
Well, as I say, I would be interested to know how many of your viewers, some of them maybe rent a flat themselves, I'd be interested to know how many of them are aware of the licensing arrangements
what
that
about
pertain...
the Chancellor now, not GB News viewers? Should the Chancellor go or not?
Well, I don't... Well, absolutely not. I mean, if you want to wreck the British economy, the best thing you could do, as Kemi Badenoch has just done, is call for the Chancellor to go at this stage. I mean, that is utter nonsense. But, I mean, I really do think that to try and make a major issue when there are so many other important things happening over something like this, just shows you that they're scraping the bottom of the barrel.
Do you think the Labour Party would be quite so understanding of these circumstances if it were a senior Conservative parliamentarian that had made this? Of course it wouldn't, Steve. It seems to be consistently, it was just a simple bureaucratic error. We weren't... Angela Rayner wasn't aware of her stamp duty position, and Sir Keir Starmer resolutely stands by his woman. He's doing the same again. Is Rachel Reeves going to be Angela Rayner Mark II?
Well, I don't think so. I really don't think we can compare the two. I mean, Angela was subject to a proper investigation. It was shown that she had got it wrong. She accepted that. She went. That's what you would expect to happen. As I say, if people are going to say that Rachel Reeves must go because of this, I wonder how many MPs would be left who may also be inadvertently making the same mistake.
But, Steve, this is a law, a rule, a regulation, call it what you like, that the Chancellor has herself campaigned on. And isn't that the point? It always consistently seems to be with politicians. One rule for thee and one rule for me. Is that hypocrisy that sticks in people's craws?
Well, I don't think it is, because I think she genuinely didn't realise, and I must admit I didn't realise until I saw this morning, that there were any licensing regulations covering people letting properties in Southwark. It came as a surprise to me. I would suspect it came as a surprise to a great many other people. And now that we know, there'll probably be a rush of people applying for licences.
OK, Lord Steve McCabe, thank you for joining us in the studio in Westminster. As ever, it's a pleasure to have your company. Thank you. Now, moving on the day, a 22-year-old Afghan national appeared in court charged with murder and attempted murder. The family of the murder victim, Wayne Broadhurst, have just released a tribute statement. And let's get the very latest on this important story now from our Homeland Security editor, Mark White. Mark, brings us up to speed.
Well, as you mentioned, their 22-year-old Afghan national Safi Dawood appeared at Westminster Magistrates Court today, charged with 1 count of murder, 2 counts of attempted murder. And the victim, who tragically died after this stabbing incident in Uxbridge on Monday night, was that man that you can see on your screens there, Wayne Broadhurst, so well loved in the local community, Martin. And we've just had the most heartfelt statement through from his family. They say that Wayne was a devoted and hard-working man who spent his life serving his community as a waste services worker. He worked hard his whole life, never shying away from improving his community. His love for animals showed the gentle heart behind his strong work ethic. And we know, of course, that Wayne was out walking his dog on Monday evening at the time that he was stabbed and died from the injuries received. The statement goes on to say his passion for Liverpool FC was something he loved to share with others. His loss has left a deep void, not only in the hearts of his family and friends, but across the community he quietly cared for. It concludes by saying, Wayne will be remembered for his kindness, his loyalty and his genuine willingness to help others. His absence is felt profoundly and his memory will continue to live on in the community. Absolutely heartbreaking stuff, Martin.
Yeah, truly is, Mark White. And just to repeat, there was a fundraiser. We mentioned yesterday a fundraiser by the widow there, which is now raised up to some £36,000. So if anyone wants to get involved in that, please do. Mark White, thank you very much for reading out that heartfelt statement. Thank you. Well, let's now speak with GB News' political editor, Chris Hope, who joins us live from Downing Street. Chris, you've been in lobby for us. Of course, the topic of the day, only one big political story in town, the fate of the embattled Chancellor, Rachel Reeves. What are Downing Street telling you?
Well, there's been quite a big twist this afternoon, Martin. We are now told that the Chancellor's husband, Nick Joycey, has discovered some new emails which have been sent to the Prime Minister this afternoon, we understand. Those emails are being reviewed now and will be published within the next few hours. The PM's Deputy Official Spokesman says this: following a review of emails sent and received, new information has come to light, and this has been passed to the Prime Minister and the Ministerial Ethics Advisor. It would be inappropriate to comment further. Now, we're told the PM does have full confidence in the Chancellor of the Exchequer, but this does muddy the waters. It was an open and shut case at midnight last night when, of course, the Daily Mail published what we now know, that the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, had been letting her property in Dulwich, South East London, without any licence. She apologised, the PM accepted the apology, Sir Laurie Magnus, the advisor, had accepted that. That is now up in the air because what's happened now in the past few moments, the number 10 says new emails have come to light and these have been passed to the Prime Minister, we understand this afternoon, and to the Ethics Advisor. They will be published very shortly. But what we do know is the PM has full confidence in the Chancellor.
So just to be absolutely clear, that information is going to be published this afternoon, potentially during the remainder of this show. A plot twist nobody saw coming, Chris Hope.
Well, that's right. I mean, there was some confusion about this story because, of course, the Daily Mail discovered the information about the lack of a licence on that property. They then obviously went to Rachel Reeves, her team, and then it seems, without us knowing, there was suddenly an inquiry by Laurie Magnus, who's the advisor on ethics to the PM. The PM accepted that there was nothing wrong here, an apology would suffice from the Chancellor. That all happened at about 11 PM, 11:30 last night, before many people had even seen the Daily Mail. What they weren't clear on is what was the rush? Why do it so quickly? It may have been to avoid alarming the bond markets by having uncertainty over the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves. But what it does mean is new evidence has now come to light after that inquiry closed. That information will be published this afternoon in the form of redacted emails. We'll wait and see how this plays out.
Well, dramatic plot twist. Thanks for bringing us up to speed, Chris Hope. We look forward to seeing those perhaps before the end of the show. Chris Hope there live from Downing Street. Now, still to come, the Reform candidate for Caerphilly, beg your pardon, claims he was subjected to a vicious hate campaign in the Welsh Senedd by-election. He'll be joining me next in the studio. And also, we'll be getting the latest in the Dutch election with right-wing populist Geert Wilders now neck and neck with the country's centrist candidate. As this goes to the very, very wire. You with me, Martin Daubney, on GB News, Britain's #1 news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 PM every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here
It's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Time is 4:26. You with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, Reform UK's Caerphilly by-election campaign office was vandalised just days after Plaid Cymru won the Crunch Senedd contest. Now, the campaign office, located on Caerphilly's Cardiff Road, as you can see on your screens there, had an expletive-riddled message emblazoned across its metal shutters, hinting at Reform going home following the defeat, despite, of course, the fact the candidate is a Caerphilly man. And I'm joined in the studio by that man who stood for Reform in Caerphilly, the Caerphilly by-election, and that is Claire Powell. Mr. Powell, welcome to the studio. I watched this campaign very attentively from afar, and I was told that there was some vile abuse going on the campaign trail. We've heard a lot about this in previous campaign trails. We've got some pictures. We're going to show what you went through. Sounds horrific. Tell us about it.
It was one of the toughest things I've ever done in my life, from the attacks on the campaign office, to gluing the doors, to preventing us getting in, to then actually escalating where I had death threats on a regular basis. It just became the norm in the campaign. And they attacked my home where I was staying in the night, early hours of the morning, kicking in my door. I was upstairs, just got out of bed, a little bit trying to work out what's going on, and then I had the panic of, are these people going to actually physically hurt me? I was spat on. The sort of attacks became really the pressure became where family had to be kept away. I had to warn my friends. It was an unbearable experience.
Sounds utterly horrific. We're seeing some pictures on the screen here you've exclusively supplied to us. Obviously, they're calling you racist. It's almost become normal now. They're crossing out your face there on the placard. They're destroying placards here. They put swastikas across your face, Adolf Hitler moustaches. Mr. Powell, talk us through what we're seeing on our screens here and how it's impacted not just you, but the entire campaign team.
Well, of course, the campaign team, we had to make sure that everyone was safe and no one was out campaigning on their own. But the scary thing about what you're seeing here were people's houses. This was members of the public who just wanted to support someone in a campaign, and their properties were attacked as well. So even if some people think that going for the Reform guy is acceptable, they won't consider what they were doing to these people who were just ordinary people who were using their democratic right, and their families' homes were also attacked. So it's become really toxic, the environment. I've just seen a fraction of what some of my colleagues go through on a daily basis. I couldn't even imagine how Nigel and the rest of the MPs do this on a day-to-day basis. But for me, a concern over my family and what was I really doing here, I thought I was taking part in a democratic process, represent my community and what I believe in. But it became sort of where I feared for whether it was my own safety, my family, my friends, or even activists that were just giving up their time to campaign for what they believe in. And I was spat on, I was attacked in the street outside my office once. Security would actually walk me in the morning to get my morning breakfast just because they were concerned about my well-being. It was a really tough experience, and it's my hope that by talking about this, that some people might be able to reflect on maybe something they posted online or how they've inflamed this debate. I had to use legal action against other groups and my political opponents to try to get them to take posts down. It just became a very unhealthy environment.
And we've seen, not only in this by-election, but in previous by-elections, outsiders coming in. We don't need to go into the names of any organisations. I understand that there are investigations going on. But I wanted to ask you about the broader concern. We've heard Shabana Mahmood say Reform UK is worse than racist. We've heard mentions of fascism, of Nazis, of the worst, very, very worst people of all of human history. Do you think this kind of toxic rhetoric from the very top of the Labour Party, from the top of the Liberal Democrat Party, do you think it needs to stop? Do you think it could have consequences?
Oh, I think it's going to have huge consequences, because by branding someone a racist and making that word become such a norm in society where if you disagree with someone now, you simply call them a racist, it loses its meaning, its impact of what someone who is racist, who discriminates based on nothing else but just out of pure prejudice. That is dangerous if we're belittling that. You know, we've seen it across the world, and I hope that they will reflect on what they're doing here, because it's had huge consequences for me, my family and my friends seeing me go through such a thing. But think of all those other people who just wanted to vote. The Caerphilly by-election, we've seen more people turn out than ever in an election. Fascists would be the ones that wouldn't be encouraging people to vote. Fascists would be destroying other people's property because of what they believe in on that side. So I think if we just tone down the rhetoric, let's stick to the issues, and that's what Reform UK is going to do. So despite people telling us to go home they're in for a very disappointment, because Reform UK is going absolutely nowhere. We're going to stand up for the people of Wales and what we believe in.
I wonder, actually, if the fascists the people who call others fascists are sometimes the precise thing they accuse others of. Thanks for joining us in the studio today, and I'm sorry you've been through that harrowing experience, but you've lived to tell the tale. Thank you very much, Sassy. Claire Powell there from Reform UK. And lots more still to come between now and 5 p.m, including we're getting the very latest in the Dutch election, with right-wing populist Geert Wilders neck and neck with the country's centrist candidate. This could go all the way to the wire. What will it mean for democracy in the Netherlands and across the European continent? But first, it's time for your headlines, and here's Sam Francis.
4:32, the top story this hour. Sir Keir Starmer has ruled out any investigation into Chancellor Rachel Reeves after she admitted breaking housing rules by renting out her London home without a proper licence. The Prime Minister's official spokesman has guaranteed that she will deliver the budget on the 26th of November. That's after Ms Reeves said it was an inadvertent error. The Conservatives, though, insist she should face a full inquiry. Well, it's not just a housing row. Kemi Badenoch's also warning Rachel Reeves should be sacked if she raises taxes in the next month's budget. The Tory leader accused Labour of high taxes and out-of-control spending. But Labour insists it's fixing long-term damage and putting money back in people's pockets. Police are appealing for witnesses after a 70-year-old man died in a helicopter crash near Doncaster. The aircraft, a private flight from Gamston Airport, came down in a field. The pilot and 2 passengers suffered minor injuries. A 22-year-old Afghan asylum seeker has appeared in court accused of murdering dog walker Wayne Broadhurst in West London. Safi Dawood's also charged with attempting to kill 2 people he lived with, a 45-year-old man and a 14-year-old boy. Both are still in hospital with serious injuries. In France, a court sided with the Prince and Princess of Wales, ruling that Paris Match magazine seriously violated the privacy of the royals by publishing long-lens photos of their children on a private skiing trip. Donald Trump has announced plans to resume US nuclear weapons testing for the first time in more than 30 years. He says it's needed to keep pace with China and Russia ahead of talks with President Xi Jinping in Seoul. Those are the headlines for now. A full roundup with the news at 5.
For all the latest from GB News whilst you're on the go, get the GB News app. Scan the QR code now to download or visit gbnews.com/app.
Hello there, good afternoon. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. After a chilly start this morning, tonight will be milder. There will be some spells of rain though, and it is going to be rather windy across much of the country, particularly across Northern Ireland, where we'll start to see outbreaks of rain this afternoon, all down to low pressure, pushing in these frontal systems, so cloud, rain, and also some quite strong gusty winds. Where we have our weather warning issued for Northern Ireland, we could see wind speeds of between 50 to 60 miles per hour. It's going to be turning blustery for all though. This band of heavy rain shifts its way eastwards into the North Sea, turning a little drier for a time as we head closer towards dawn, though we can't rule out some showers lingering around for some. Nevertheless, though, it is going to be a milder start to the day, many towns and cities in the low double digits. So we'll see a mix of clouds, some clearer skies to start the day. There will be some showers quickly moving through though, particularly across the south, some heavy showers pushing up from the English Channel there. Some of these could be quite heavy and it is going to be quite blustery, particularly around any western coasts. But for Northern Ireland, it is going to be a much brighter start than what we saw this morning. And similar across parts of Scotland, a mix of clouds, some clearer skies towards the north, though we can't rule out a risk of showers. And that is the theme through much of the day, though some of these showers could be quite heavy. Some bring some quite intense downpours, particularly this area into the west as we head towards the afternoon. Some strong blustery winds and some heavy bands of rain. This could bring in some hail and thunder. And it is going to be quite a blustery day for all, but with the slightly blustery weather, that does bring in some milder air, so highs reaching around 16 to 17 degrees Celsius in the south. Through into the evening, for any trick-or-treaters that might be out and about, there'll be once again a mix of some drier spells and also some showers. These showers turning to quite an intense band of rain across parts of the southwest through the course of the evening. And as we progress into the weekend, the showery theme continues, though it should start to feel a little bit milder from Monday onwards.
Thank you, Britain, for making us the fastest growing news website in the nation. Because the truth matters, and so do you.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. Currently on the M90, drivers face delays due to a broken down vehicle at Junction 7 northbound. Proceed with caution and consider extra travel time. On the M25, an overturned vehicle between Junction 10 and Junction 9 anti-clockwise in Surrey has temporarily closed all lanes. Meanwhile, congestion affects the A38 southbound in Derbyshire, between the A50 and the junction with the A5132, causing delays of about 10 minutes today. And on the trains, Gatwick Express has no service between London, Victoria and Brighton, and cross-country faces disruption between Peterborough and Ely. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Welcome back. Time is 4:37. You're with me, Martin Daubney, on GB News. Now, there is very little time left in our latest Great British Giveaway, so make sure that you don't miss out on your chance to become our biggest winner of the year. Don't forget, a brand new motorhome worth 74 grand and £30,000 in tax-free moolah is how you could win the lot.
Lines close tomorrow on your chance to win big, with a prize worth over £104,000. First, you could be driving away with this brand new Benamar Primera motorhome. Worth over £74,000, this luxury vehicle comfortably sleeps 4, has its own fitted kitchen and bathroom areas, and comes complete with fitted awning and bicycle rack. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a whopping £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. The coming year could be your best yet, but hurry, get your entry in now. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. The winner will be contacted live on GB News, week commencing 10th November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good luck. Now then, nearly all the votes are in for a very, very close Dutch parliamentary race. Now, Rob Jetten's centrist Liberal Party, called D66, at the moment they're neck and neck with Geert Wilders' Freedom Party in an extremely tight election. In fact, it's so tight we won't know until next Tuesday. Now, Mr Wilders had topped the polls throughout the entire campaign, but after quitting his coalition in June over migration, mainstream leaders ruled out working with him again. Of course, he is known as a firebrand who's been very, very critical of Islamism and immigration and soaring crime in the Netherlands. Well, lots to discuss now. I'm delighted to be joined in the studio in Westminster by the Dutch journalist, and that's Scarlett Karelieva. Welcome to the show, Scarlett. Pleasure to have your company. Geert Wilders is known to our viewers, of course, as a very, very critical politician of Islam. So much so, in fact, he needs a full-time security detail. His life is constantly under threat. He did win the last election. The establishment did everything they could to keep him out of power. They refused to form a government with him. Now it's gone to a re-election, and it's so close, we don't even know the answer yet.
That's true. It's bizarre. We'll have to know on Tuesday, because right now the difference between Geert Wilders and the D66, which is, of course, the Liberal Central Party, is only 1984 votes, which I think is a very symbolic number. The votes are still coming in, but one thing that we know for sure is that Geert Wilders will not be able to form a coalition. Even if he wins these elections, the majority of the parties have ruled out forming a coalition again with him. He's facing a cordon sanitaire.
And what's happening here, ostensibly, in plain terms, the political establishment in the Netherlands has basically refused to cooperate with him because it's a coalition government where they have to form a number together. I believe they have to form, is it 150 seats as a majority to form a working government, and they've simply refused to work with him, even though he won before. This feels like a stitch-up.
It is. I mean, like, even during the last elections, he had 37 seats. He could form a coalition. I think the only reason why the other parties wanted to work with him is because you cannot rule out a party that has 37 seats, because then you say to the electorate, we're going to ignore you. So they have to show this theater that they're democratic. But from the beginning, it was very clear that they would do whatever they had within their power to make sure he couldn't succeed.
And where does this leave the electorate? And because I follow this pretty closely, but tell me about the issues that are very concerning to the Dutch electorate. Immigration's been huge, asylum's been huge, and housing has been huge, and crime as well, right?
Correct. I think the biggest problem that we're facing is asylum crisis. So we simply do not have enough places to place these asylums. Just like here in the UK, they're being put in luxurious hotels. Now that their little local cities are being forced to place them as well, they're causing massive problems. I don't know if I can say the word, but rapes of young girls. People are not safe anymore. The crime has gone up. And the problem is that the government is doing nothing about it.
What's the coalition, the centrist coalition said? I believe that they've changed their position reluctantly. They had to go into the position of saying, yeah, we're actually going to do something about this. But I think their solution, as I understand it, isn't to clamp down on border control, which is what people seem to want. But they're saying we're just going to build more houses instead. We've heard that in Britain. The problem is if you build more houses and don't close your borders, the houses just get filled with asylum seekers.
Yeah, this is what Rob Jetten did very smart. He made a little U-turn saying, oh, you know what? If people want to come in and have asylum, they should apply for it outside of Europe. Of course, this is a facade. This is never going to happen. Let's not forget this man was already in a coalition with Mark Rutte for 13 years. Partly under his leadership, the Netherlands actually had 1.5 million migrants entering the country. So he's part of the problem that we're currently facing.
And he will be the first openly gay Prime Minister in the history of the Netherlands if he gets in. He's seen as very, very progressive. And, of course, the liberal media, not only in the Netherlands but across the entire European continent, saying this is proof populism can be crushed. But it's worth pointing out again, Scarlett, that Geert Wilders has been kept out of power by the establishment. Even though he won the election last time, they won't let him rule the country.
Yeah, you know, Martin, this is just politics for theater, saying, oh, look, we got the first gay prime minister. But that's not the issue. Nobody cares whether he's gay or not. The real issue that we're facing is that the crimes has gone up, energy prices has gone up, people cannot find affordable housing, we're dealing with a migrant issue, and the only person who could have done something about it is Geert Wilders. And as you said, they will make sure that he cannot govern. So I think the best shot that we have right now is that he will be a strong opposition leader in Parliament.
We've seen the same in France, where the establishment refused to work with Marine Le Pen's party. And actually, this side of the channel, Scarlett, we're seeing an establishment ganging up, if you like, against Nigel Farage, some people believe. Yesterday, he gave a speech about leaving the ECHR. He was harangued to the point where he wasn't really able to be heard. Is that a consistent pattern we're seeing across the continent of Europe? The establishment, the Liberal establishment, they want the Liberal way to go on, and they'll do anything and everything in their power to make sure that you might call them more populist politicians ever see power.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I mean, look how they behaved during when Nigel Farage was giving his amazing speech. They were calling him, I think it was a Putin lover. This would never happen the other way around. We see as well what was happening during the bypass elections in Welsh, where they had the strategic voting. And it's very similar to what happened, of course, in France last year when they had the snap elections. And it's just so stupid. They don't understand that this tactic is only giving them a small advantage on the short term. Look at France, it's such a good example. The whole government has no legitimacy, is in a deadlock, nothing is changing, there's instability, and the same will happen for Labour government if they don't really have Nigel Farage a fair shot in doing something good for the country.
Scarlett Karoleva, thank you very much. Fascinating stuff, and let's see how that vote goes. I think it's next Tuesday. Maybe we can catch up again before then. Scarlett, pleasure to have you in the Westminster studio. Thanks for your time. Now, if you're in search of some holiday sun this year, then here's the forecast for some of the top European destinations.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you are looking to escape the very mixed weather across the UK, well, it's going to also be mixed across much of the Mediterranean. Not everywhere. We are going to see some fine weather on Friday through parts of Greece, particularly the Greek islands. But we've got this area of low pressure bringing some heavy rain to southern Italy, showers to northern Italy as well. Mostly fine to eastern Spain for now, but some wet and windy conditions across Portugal, and they spread east, albeit slowly, through the weekend and early next week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
The University of Sheffield has raised a few eyebrows after slapping death and violence triggers on, you know what's coming, the Bible. Christians and historians have dubbed the warnings as misguided and absurd and incompatible with discussions about morality. Joining me now is co-host of the Catholic Unscripted podcast, Mark Lambert. Mark, good to see you. Thank you very much for joining us. Mark, I mean, I can see from the smile on your face already what you make of this story, but just articulate for me your feelings about it.
I think it's typical of the culture that wants to sexualise our children and have drag queens and all this kind of stuff. And they want to censor the Bible, you know, they want to censor the book that built our civilization. It's just so vacuous in academic terms that this is the way that they want to move forward. And it's kind of redolent of that post-Enlightenment ideology that says that we need to tear down the things that have worked for hundreds of years. You know, we've stood on the shoulders of those who've gone before us, built on these principles. But in reality, it stifles critical thinking, any deep textual engagement. And instead of equipping students to grapple with complex narratives that reflect the human condition, like sin, sacrifice, salvation, these warnings promote intellectual avoidance reducing profound theological events like Christ's crucifixion to just triggers for graphic bodily injury or sexual violence. This isn't education, Dawn. It's a superficial evasion that undermines the very purpose of academia.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 10 to 5 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, just a reminder, there's been a dramatic plot twist in this past 20 minutes about the situation surrounding the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves. Of course, there were rumours around that she should resign for breaking housing rules. Been a dramatic plot twist, and it's this. In these past 20 minutes, the Prime Minister's ethics advisor, Solori Magnus, is now examining fresh emails from Rachel Reeves' husband, Nick Joycey, in the letting controversy over her home in Dulwich. The Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, became aware of these new emails this afternoon. The emails will be published later on today, and they're being redacted to remove personal details, GB News understands. This comes from Chris Hope, our political editor, who received this information from inside the number 10 lobby meeting that he just came out of. Just to further that position, the Prime Minister's deputy official spokesman said, following a review of emails sent and received, new information has come to light, and this has been passed to the Prime Minister and the Ministerial Ethics Advisor. It will be inappropriate to comment further. And to conclude, the PM has the full confidence in the Chancellor, the spokesman says, and we're awaiting the content of those emails to come out this afternoon. Now, we probably shouldn't speculate, but this could mean that Miss Reeves' husband, Nick Joycey, perhaps they own that property together. Perhaps these emails allude to the situation around the letting out of this property. Information will be redacted. I think that's quite normal in terms of personal addresses. Nobody wants a parliamentarian's address to be published. I don't think there's any conspiracy theory going on around that. But a dramatic development. And Steve McCabe, the Labour peer and former Labour MP, was sat next to me in the studio here in Westminster when this news broke, and he winced. He was like, this seemed that perhaps this isn't the best of news. Just to repeat, dramatic breaking news line, emails will be published, redacted emails, this afternoon, we understand, on the situation around Rachel Reeves. The Chancellor, of course, the story this morning, she was looking at having to repay potentially up to £38,000 in rent she's taken over this past year and more. The licence to rent out that house in the borough of Southwark in South East London, that cost £900 per year. We understand that Miss Reeves didn't have that licence for whatever reasons. We don't know why. It could be a simple oversight. There's no implication that she was a knowing or willing party in any kind of subversive behaviour. But we just to repeat that line, because this will no doubt happen throughout the rest of the show. The PM's ethics advisor, Solori Magnus, is now examining fresh emails from Rachel Reeves' husband, and that is Nick Joycey, in the letting controversy over her home in Dulwich, that is in South East London. The Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, became aware of these new emails this afternoon. The emails will be published later on today and are being redacted to remove personal details such as addresses, GB News understands. This came from Chris Hope, our political editor in Downing Street a short moment ago. The PM's deputy official spokesman said, following a review of emails sent and received, new information has come to light, and this has been passed on to the Prime Minister and the Ministerial Ethics Advisor. It will be inappropriate to comment further at this point. But the Prime Minister just repeated he has full confidence in the Chancellor, the spokesman said, but that information will be coming out this afternoon. And what a dramatic plot twist. Well, coming up next, I'll be joined in the studio by the Red Wall Rottweiler. Of course, that is Lee Anderson for his thoughts on the Chancellor's latest predicament. Plus, of course, Nigel Farage was crowned the Politician of the Year at the Spectator Awards, where he also claimed he'd be the next Prime Minister. What does Lee Anderson make of that? That's next with me, Martin Daubney, on GB News, British News Channel. But now it's time for your weather, and here's Honor.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good afternoon. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. After a chilly start this morning, tonight will be milder. There will be some spells of rain though, and it is going to be rather windy across much of the country, particularly across Northern Ireland, where we'll start to see outbreaks of rain this afternoon, all down to low pressure, pushing in these frontal systems, so cloud, rain, and also some quite strong gusty winds. Where we have our weather warning issued for Northern Ireland, we could see wind speeds of between 50 to 60 miles per hour. It's going to be turning blustery for all though. This band of heavy rain shifts its way eastwards into the North Sea, turning a little drier for a time as we head closer towards dawn, though we can't rule out some showers lingering around for some. Nevertheless, though, it is going to be a milder start to the day. Many towns and cities in the low double digits. So we'll see a mix of clouds, some clearer skies to start the day. There will be some showers quickly moving through though, particularly across the south, some heavy showers pushing up from the English Channel there. Some of these could be quite heavy and it is going to be quite blustery, particularly around any western coast. But for Northern Ireland, it is going to be a much brighter start than what we saw this morning. And similar across parts of Scotland, a mix of clouds, some clearer skies towards the north, though we can't rule out a risk of showers. And that is the theme through much of the day, though some of these showers could be quite heavy, some bring some quite intense downpours, particularly this area into the west as we head towards the afternoon. Some strong blustery winds and some heavy bands of rain. This could bring in some hail and thunder. And it is going to be quite a blustery day for all, but with the slightly blustery weather, that does bring in some milder air, so highs reaching around 16 to 17 degrees Celsius in the south. Through into the evening, for any trick-or-treaters that might be out and about, there'll be once again a mix of some drier spells and also some showers. These showers turning to quite an intense band of rain across parts of the southwest through the course of the evening. And as we progress into the weekend, the showery theme continues, though it should start to feel a little bit milder from Monday onwards.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for our more than 2 million YouTube subscribers and more than 2 billion views. That is Britain watching, sharing and making its voice heard louder than ever before.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. The A99 is closed between Brewin and Blackness. Find an alternative route. The M25 anti-clockwise between junction 10 and 9 is closed due to an overturned vehicle. On the M6 southbound in Cheshire West and Chester, one lane is closed between junctions 19 and 18. Expected normal conditions by 7:30. The A19 southbound in Durham has one lane shut due to a broken down vehicle. And on the trains, there is no service on the Gatwick Express between London Victoria and Brighton, with disruptions on cross-country between Peterborough and Ely and Peterborough and Grantham. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
It's the final week to see how you can become our biggest winner this year. First, you could be driving away with this brand new Benamar Primera motorhome. This luxury vehicle comfortably sleeps 4, has its own fitted kitchen and bathroom areas, and comes complete with fitted awning and bicycle rack. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a whopping £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
I'm Michelle Dewberry. This is Jubes & Co. with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here. GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Very, very good afternoon to you. It's 5 p.m. and welcome to the Martin Daubney Show on GB News, broadcasting live across the UK. All the very latest news, debate and analysis all the way through until 6 p.m. And here's what's coming up on today's show.
Rachel Reeves raised taxes, then she should go. If she has broken the law, then she should go.
Pressure is mounting on Keir Starmer to sack his under fire Chancellor Rachel Reeves after she was caught illegally renting out her home. Should she stay or should she go? And a dramatic plot twist in this last hour. We've heard this afternoon emails will be released by the Prime Minister, shedding further light on this incredible situation. I'll be joined in a short while in the studio by Lee Anderson from Reform UK. President Trump orders the immediate testing of the US nuclear arsenal just hours after Russia announced its testing of a nuclear-capable underwater drone. Could this mean World War III, or is this simply Donald Trump once again flexing his military muscles? And meanwhile, Rachel Reeves is gearing up to blame Brexit for a 4% drop in the UK's GDP and pave the way perhaps for stinging 2% income tax hikes. But on today's show, I'll exclusively reveal data that finally torpedoes Labour's Brexit myths and prove once and for all we're better off out. And yet more proofs that the lunatics may have taken over the asylum system. It's been revealed that asylum seekers are getting free VIP makeovers from hairdressers as they await deportation. Surely this harebrained scheme should get the brush off, and that's all coming up in your next hour. Should she stay or should she go? The embattled Chancellor Rachel Reeves is under the cosh. The Prime Minister, for now, is backing his woman, backing his Chancellor. But in this past half hour, we've learned emails are set to be released this afternoon, sent to Rachel Reeves' husband, shedding fresh light on this matter. What will it mean? Should she stay? Should she go? Will Rachel Reeves survive the afternoon? We'll bring you all of that exclusively here on GB News as it happens. In a short moment's time, I'll be joined in the studio by Lee Anderson, the Reform Red Wall Rottweiler, for his take on that. Plus, of course, the news that last night Nigel Farage was made the Spectator's Politician of the Year. That's all coming up. Get in touch with your thoughts. GBNews.com/your say is the way to do so. But now it's time for your headlines, and here's Sam Francis.
Martin, thank you. A very good evening to you. The top story tonight at 5. Downing Street has said new information has now come to light in the growing row over Chancellor Rachel Reeves breaking housing rules. Emails sent by her husband about the rental of their London home have now been passed to the Prime Minister and the government's ethics advisor, who is reviewing the fresh evidence. Number 10 insists Miss Reeves will still deliver next month's budget, despite pressure from the Conservatives, who say they want a full inquiry. Miss Reeves has apologised for what she called an inadvertent mistake, saying she hadn't realised a selective licence was needed to rent out her property. Sir Keir Starmer says he considers the matter closed, but Tory leader Kemi Badenoch insists the Chancellor should be sacked if she's found to have broken the law.
I've just spoken to 2 landlords this morning who rent homes in Southwark, and they said that they spent thousands of pounds on these lettings regulations, and she should not be allowed to get off scot-free. I think there needs to be an investigation. If she has broken the law, then she should go. In Keir Starmer's own words, lawmakers should not be lawbreakers.
Well, it's not just the rental row. Kemi Badenoch has also warned that Rachel Reeves should be sacked if she raises taxes in next month's budget. At a pre-budget rally, the Conservative leader accused Labour of breaking promises and delivering high taxes and out-of-control spending. It follows Sir Keir Starmer's refusal to repeat his pledge not to raise income tax, national insurance or VAT, fuelling speculation of major tax hikes to come to fill a £20 billion hole in the public finances. Labour, though, says the Conservatives have no credibility on the economy and insist it's focused on fixing the long-term damage and putting money back into people's pockets. A former Afghan asylum seeker has appeared in court accused of murdering a dog walker and stabbing 2 people he lived with in West London. 22-year-old Safi Dawood is charged with 1 count of murder, 2 counts of attempted murder. He's currently remanded in custody after a brief hearing this morning. Emergency services were called to Midhurst Gardens in Uxbridge on Monday evening to reports there of a triple stabbing, where 49-year-old Wayne Broadhurst was killed while out walking his dog. Prosecutors say Dawood had been lodging with the 2 other victims, a 45-year-old man and a 14-year-old boy, both of whom remain in hospital with serious injuries. The Prince and Princess of Wales have condemned what they have called grossly intrusive paparazzi photos taken of their children during a private skiing holiday in France. A court there ruled the Paris Match magazine breached the family's privacy and image rights after publishing long-lens photos and personal details of their trip to the Alps in April. The article included shots of William and Kate and their 3 children on the slopes, taken without consent. The court found the magazine had seriously violated their private life, siding with the couple in their legal action. In the US, President Donald Trump has announced plans to resume nuclear weapons testing, the first time America has done so in more than 30 years. In a post on social media, he said the move was needed to keep pace with Russia and China. The US hasn't carried out a nuclear test since 1992, but Mr. Trump said the process will begin immediately, marking a major shift in US defence policy. It follows his recent condemnation of Russia's new nuclear-powered missile, said to have an unlimited range. And the UK government has chartered emergency flights to help British nationals leave Jamaica after Hurricane Melissa tore across the Caribbean. Up to 8,000 Britons are believed to be on the island, now reeling from one of the strongest ever Atlantic hurricanes. Tourists have been ordered to stay indoors, with many still locked down in hotels as Jamaica continues to recover from widespread devastation. The Foreign Office says the flights will help those unable to return home commercially, while efforts continue to restore regular services for those still stranded. That's the news on GB News. I'll be back with you in half an hour. Next, though, one last look at today's markets.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Well, the pound will buy you $1.3173 and €1.1361 euros. The price of gold is £3,026, 3 pence per ounce, and the FTSE 100 is at 9,699 points.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Thank you, Sam. Now, the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, admitted breaking local housing rules by renting out her London home without the proper licence. Now, the property in Southwark in south-east London, it was let for around £3,200 a month after she moved into Downing Street following Labour's general election win last July. But it's now emerged that Keir Starmer's ethics advisor is considering new evidence from the Chancellor's husband. Dramatic plot twist that happened in this past hour. And the man who broke that story is our political editor, Chris Hope. And I'm also joined in the studio by the Reform UK MP for Ashfield, of course, the Red Wall Rottweiler, Lee Anderson. Gentlemen, welcome to the studio. Chris, you broke this story about 30 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Now, a plot twist. What could this mean?
Well, we don't know. What we do know is this. The PM's deputy official spokesman told us this just over an hour ago. Following a review of emails sent and received, new information has come to light, and that's been passed to the Prime Minister and the Ministerial Ethics Advisor. it would be inappropriate to comment further. To rewind to where we are, the Chancellor rented out her house in Dulwich, South East London, to somebody who don't know who they are, but she didn't get a licence to do so, which you were meant to have. Now, she supported the licensing scheme in Leeds, where she's the MP, but she didn't do it in her own property. This was discovered by the Daily Mail, who approached her, we assume, yesterday. Late last night, as barely any of us had seen the Daily Mail front page before the paper had actually come out properly, Number 10 put out an exchange of letters between the Prime Minister and the Chancellor, in which the Chancellor apologised and the PM said they'd been reviewed by Laurie Magnus, the ethics advisor, and it's all done, it's all dealt with, it's gone, open and shut case. What's happened is new information has emerged. Emails were discovered, it seems, by Nick Joycey, the husband of the Chancellor. That went to the PM today. Those have been looked again right now by Sir Laurie Magnus, the advisor, and they're being, we think, redacted for release within the hour or 2 hours. It's very febrile, but we do think the Chancellor is safe because we are told the PM has full confidence in her.
You said that about Angela Rayner, and look what happened to her. I mean, you know, it's a bit like getting the photo conference from the board of directors. The next minute, you know, through the trapdoor as a football manager. I digress.
They must regret rushing that inquiry last night. Why not wait till you got all the evidence and then do it in a normal way? By rushing it out, they have now sowed more uncertainty than there was before.
So let's speculate. I think we're allowed to do that. Yeah. These emails are going to come out, or the information contained within them, they're going to be redacted. And I think that's to get rid of personal information like addresses. Like that's perfectly
correct. That's correct.
Acceptable. No conspiracy theory there. Now, the fact that they are coming from Nick Joycey, Rachel Reeves' husband, could intimate a lot of people own properties together as couples. The information about the licences may have gone to him. He might be the guy who's doing the admin for the Chancellor. That's quite reasonable. It could be something as simple as the email went to both of them and he was the one who overlooked it. It could be something much more serious. But for now, the fact the Prime Minister is standing by his Chancellor intimates to you she might be off the hook.
It does, but as ever, you know, when we look at the information, they might throw up more questions. I mean, there was already suggestion in some reporting that the tenants who are renting an unlicensed property can get their money back from the Chancellor. That could be 38,000 quid. Right. So we're some way away from getting to the bottom of this issue.
Lee Anthony, I'm going to bring you in now. Nothing to see here, say the Labour Party. I put it to you. There'd be a lot to see here if it's one of you lot.
Yeah, if it's one of us lot, Martin, there'd definitely be a lot to see. I mean, these people expect us and the citizens of this country to live by a particular set of rules, but it appears in this case that they're not living by the rules. And as Chopper said earlier, I think Rachel, she actually campaigned for the selective licensing scheme back up in Leeds, where she represents. So you would think that if you've got a property in an area and you was going to rent it out to somebody and you'd already campaigned for selective licensing schemes in your own area, you would double-check before you rented it out. And I sort of understand what you say, that it may have been her husband doing all the admin things, but for goodness sake, Martin, this lady is the Chancellor of the Exchequer. She's supposed to be in charge of the public finances in this country. She is supposed to lead by example. And if you can't keep her own house in order, then she should not be doing the job.
It's worth pointing out as well as another plot twist that Ellie Reeves, of course Rachel Reeves' sister, is the parliamentarian for the Dulwich area and she's the former Labour Party chair. So it seems that both of the Reeves sisters perhaps weren't aware of the full detail of licensing in the area. Kemi Badenoch earlier on was on a high horse about this one. She was saying that Rachel Reeves should go.
You know what, Martin? The selective licensing scheme, though, Chop, just be fair, it is a very controversial scheme in areas. We've got two areas in my constituency that have the selective licensing scheme. And let me tell you, it's a good thing for tenants because it protects them for repairs, etc. But the landlords always kick off in the area about the extra cost of the licence. I think it's between £500 and £1,000, depending on where you are. And the landlords just bung that on the rent, you know, to cover the cost. So I find it a little bit difficult that somebody in the household would not have been aware of the fee for this and the fact that they needed this licence.
I want to get your thoughts on something that happened yesterday. We covered it live on the show yesterday. Of course, it was that 10-minute rule in the bill. Nigel Farage in Commons was putting forward the motion that it was the right thing to do to leave the ECHR. He stood up. He was totally surrounded by Liberal Democrat MPs. We covered it on the show to the point you could barely hear a single word he said. What was your take on what a lot of people thought was pure political pantomime?
Well, I was literally, Martin, sat this close as I am to you, to Nigel yesterday in the chamber. I couldn't hear a word he was saying. They circled him like a pack of dogs. They all turned up, the Lib Dems did en masse, because Ed Davey was going to speak, but they circled him and they never shut up all the way through his speech. They were chipping away, saying awful things, banging on about Brexit. You know, these people don't like democracy. They don't like the right for a politician like Nigel to stand up in Parliament to get his point across. And you know what? They should hang their heads in shame.
Let's have a quick look at one of the clips of that, just to remind, if you didn't see it yesterday, of events in Chamber. Let's take a look.
Was the deep alarm at the huge numbers of people coming into our country. The fact that effectively we had open borders, making us poorer in every way. Now, of course, our membership of the European Council, of the European Convention, and then it's writing into British law in 1998, kind of enshrined this, and it's what I think Tony Blair wanted us to do. Now, I believe that Brexit cannot be complete all the while we're subject to a foreign court and frankly, a piece of legislation brought in by the Blair government upon which judges can choose their own political interpretation. We are not sovereign all the while we are part of the ECHR, the European Council and its associated court. It's a simple...
that was actually a clip there where you could hear Nigel Farage speaking. A great deal of it you couldn't, and there were two Lib Dems behind him rolling their eyes and, grimacing. There they are, look. Pure political pantomime in the background. Chris Hope, yesterday you having a pop at me. You were saying, Martin, this is what it's like in Chamber. I said, it's a disgrace. It's meant to be politics, not a playground.
Come off it. A big old former miner like Lee Anderson getting worried by being savaged by Lib Dems. You call them a pack of dogs, and they're more damaging than a flock of sheep. I mean, you're the wolf in sheep's clothing. You're the one who could take them even more for dinner. You're saying you're sort of, I'm a bit worried about these Lib Dems. Come on, Lee Anderson.
This is what happens when you have Chopper on the show, you see, Martin. I'm sure, honestly, I swear that this man has been radicalised by the hard left. I mean, I think they've been knocking about with Jezza and John McDonnell, and I don't know what the hell's going on. Look, Nigel had a 10-minute robo yesterday. I think it's the first one he's had. He has the right to be heard in that chamber. And whether you agree with the barricade or not, I don't mind a bit of banter in there, Chopper, but the public tuning in want to listen. They want to hear what he has to say. And unfortunately, yesterday, these pack of political dogs in the chamber, they were around him, snapping at his heels. And you know what? We'll be even more popular in the polls. You know, the next polls that come out, Martin, I think we'll go up another 1 or 2 points.
All right. Well, Chris, you were at the Politician of the Year award last night at Spectator. Tell us about that.
Here it was, yes. This event, I think Lee Anderson was there too. Yeah. There were around 14 or so awards: Campaigner of the Year, Disruptor of the Year, Leader of the Year, and so forth. 4 of them won by the Insurgent Party Reform UK, notably Politician of the Year to Nigel Farage, Resignation of the Year for Zia Youssef, who resigned for 2 days and came back again, of course. Moment of the Year, Political Moment of the Year was Dame Andrea Jenkins singing, of course, at the Reform Conference, and also Speech of the Year, which is that one by
Chris,
Danny Kruger.
I'm being told before we show a clip of Nigel Farage what he said. You got some breaking news from Southwark Council on the Rachel Reid situation.
So they've emailed us now. We've been trying to get reaction to them because, of course, these are the rules they've broken. Now, Southwark Council says this, that they won't talk on the detail, but they say when they become aware of an unlicensed property, which would have been yesterday, they issue a warning letter advising the landlord within 21 days to apply for a licence, and enforcement or action will be reserved for those who do not apply within that time. So it may be that Rachel Reeves escapes a fine. So a crumb of good news for her.
OK, very quickly, Lee Anderson, in that clip, we don't have time to show it now. Nigel Farage said Reform will win the next general election. Drink had been taken. Do you stand by that sentiment?
There was plenty of drink taken last night, Martin. If you just said this to me this time last year, I'd have said, no, you want more drink or you've had too much drink. But now, looking at the polls, looking at the feeling in the country, I think we're going to win the next election. I think it's... I would advise anybody watching this show now to get down to Ladbrokes and have 20 quid on Nigel becoming next PM.
No one should be betting on election outcomes.
Why not?
We can't encourage anybody to gamble on this show.
Absolutely not.
Lee Anderson, Chris Hope, superb as ever, gentlemen. Thank you very, very much indeed. We have to move on because Donald Trump has ordered the Pentagon to resume nuclear weapons testing for the first time in over 30 years. Now, this comes just hours after Russia announced it had successfully tested a nuclear-capable underwater drone. Now, the US president says he had no choice as other countries were testing their weapons. So, are we headed for World War III or Is this just Donald Trump on another major military flex? Well, let's now speak with GB News presenter Bev Turner, who joins us live from Washington, D.C. Bev, an absolute pleasure to have your company as ever. Is this just Donald Trump saying, look, we've all got big red buttons, but mine's the biggest?
I think it's most likely a big flex, as you say, Martin. We know that he's the president of peace. He's made it very clear that he does not want to go around bombing countries unless it is absolutely necessary. The timing of this announcement, though, is, I think, what is most revealing. He was on Air Force One, he was travelling to see President Xi, and you often find in those situations when he's on an aeroplane, it's almost like he gets to sit down with some of his key advisors without other interruptions, and major announcements come out of that once people have got his ear. They've obviously had a conversation about the testing in Russia, as you say, the fact that also China is second, is the way Donald Trump described it, in terms of nuclear capability. And so I think he was just sending the message out to President Xi that he was about to sit down. I may be the president of peace, but if you push me, I will have the best capabilities in the world still. It is very Donald Trump. President Xi has more than doubled China's nuclear warhead arsenal in the last 5 years. And as you say, Putin has also done some testing recently. Putin was keen to point out, though, he did issue a statement to say that he hoped that President Trump had been properly informed that Moscow had not tested a nuclear weapon itself. That was key for Putin to point that out. In other words, let's not get ahead of ourselves here. We're not testing nuclear weapons. We're testing some missile capabilities. No other power, Martin, it's interesting, other than North Korea, which in 2017 have actually carried out any nuclear testing over the past 25 years. So it is a significant announcement. But as you say, I think it's more about making a statement about who Donald Trump is. He may be advocating for peace all over the world, but he doesn't want to be perceived as nothing but a pacifist, I think it's fair to say.
I think you're absolutely right. And let's not forget that phrase, peace through strength. And one of my favourite points of that term was when he called Kim Jong-un the little rocket man. He said, listen, mate, I've got a red button, but mine's bigger than yours, and mine works. Bev Turner, superb stuff, and The Late Show live on GB News, midnight with Bev Turner. Make sure we turn in Bev, beautiful stuff. Thank you very, very much there, looking superb on the lawn outside the White House. Now, there is very little time left, and our latest Great British giveaway, so make sure that you don't miss out on your chance to become our biggest winner of the year. Brand new motorhome worth 74 grand and £30,000 in tax-free, cool, hard cash. Here's how it could be yours.
Lines close tomorrow and your chance to win big with a prize worth over £104,000. First, you could be driving away with this brand new Benamar Primera motorhome. Worth over £74,000, this luxury vehicle comfortably sleeps 4, has its own fitted kitchen and bathroom areas, and comes complete with fitted awning and bicycle rack. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a whopping £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. The coming year could be your best yet. But hurry, get your entry in now. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. The winner will be contacted live on GB News, week commencing 10th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good luck now. Coming up, the Treasury is gearing up to blame Brexit, of course, for a 4% drop in the UK's GDP, and use that to pave the way for a stinging 2% income tax hike. But is it simply yet another Remainer myth? We'll be sinking that next here on GB News. You're with me, Martin Daubney, on Britain's #1 news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos. We're going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Welcome back. Your time is 5:26. You're with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, staying with the Chancellor, because Rachel Reeves has claimed that Brexit is partly to blame for high inflation in the United Kingdom. And she made the case for rebuilding ties with the European Union during her visit to Saudi Arabia earlier this week. But once again, leaving the European Union is being blamed for Britain's poor economic performance. But what's the truth behind these claims? Well, we've got some data on that, which might upset my next guest, and that's the former Liberal Democrat Minister and MP, Norman Baker. Norman, always a pleasure to have your company. Brexit is the cause of all of Britain's woes, if we believe Ed Davey, if we believe Rachel Reeves. If a comet struck Earth, no doubt you would blame Brexit. But the fact of the matter is, Norman Baker, fresh information out today shows that actually that's not the case. In fact, Britain is better off outside the European Union. Let's get a couple of charts quickly on the screen now, Norman, if we could, for me to talk through to you. The first one shows the GDP of the United Kingdom and the GDPs of France, Italy and Germany since we left in 2016. You can see there, Norman Baker, as clear as the eyes on your head. The UK is leading, 12% improvement since 2016. France in second, 11.5%. Italy on third, 9.5%. And Germany languishing like a U-boat at the bottom of the channel on 5.6%. The information is there, Norman Baker. Brexit has made Britain better off, not worse off.
Well, hello, Martin. Always nice to speak to you. I should say that I can't see your slide because I've only got a blank screen in front of me. So I take your word for it. What you're saying is correct. Look, I mean, I'm not one who's going to blame Brexit for everything. There are a number of reasons why the economy is not doing particularly well at the moment, including some of the actions the government's taken since it came to power. And, of course, the 14 years of inheritance which they had from the Conservatives wasn't terribly helpful. But however, the fact of the matter is that trade with the EU, which is our neighbour and our largest partner, still 47% of our trade goes to the EU now. That's down 21% since we left the European Union, not surprising perhaps. And the 4% impact on GDP from leaving the European Union is a figure which is shared not just by the Treasury, it's been around for some time, and generally independent...
It's not true.
Well, generally, independent economists say that's what's happened. That's the figure they generally quote. It's not a government figure.
Well, Norman, the data that I just put on the screen, just to be absolutely clear, it's the ONS data for the United Kingdom, so it's the official data, and it's the Eurostat data, which is the equivalent, as you know, for the European Union nations. It's abundantly clear that the truth of the matter is the United Kingdom has outperformed the biggest economies in the European Union since Brexit. And the second chart, I know you can't see this one either, but I'll talk you through what viewers can see. It charts the relative impact on GDP since Brexit, and there's a huge crater in the middle of it, and it's called COVID lockdowns. And you can see on that chart that the British economy plummeted to the very, very bottom. It's like the crater at the bottom of the sea because we had the most punitive lockdowns in Europe. And Norman Baker, I put it to you, this is consistently overlooked by the likes of the Liberal Democrats and the Labour Party because you guys wanted sooner, harder and longer lockdowns. It's lockdowns that's put a wrecking ball through our economy, not Brexit.
Well, look, there are a number of reasons, Martin, why the economy has not performed as well as it might do. COVID's certainly one of them. And by the way, I wasn't in favour of extended lockdowns personally. I thought we went over the top. And I was worried about how that was interpreted by the government at the time. So that wasn't a universal view within my party, or indeed I expect in the Labour Party either. However, you've got to look at what the government's done since the Labour government's done, which hasn't been very helpful. For example, the tax on business isn't very helpful. You look at what's happening in the world. It's a destabilised world. Of course, COVID was a major factor. So, no one's saying, I don't think Ed Davies saying that Brexit is the only factor here. It isn't. Of course it isn't. But I'm saying to you it was a negative factor in my view. And it's perfectly possible to reconcile your graph, which I can't see, with the 4% reduction, because it may well be would have performed even better had we been in the European Union.
Well, it may be that we'd have performed even better if we'd have had a proper Brexit. And, for example, kept our fishing industry. For example, been able to have had our own independent regulatory framework of trade, our own tax regulation, our own tax framework. We could have been even better. But you can't see the data, but you trust me, we like each other. So having heard my thesis I've put forward, Norman Baker, are you prepared to perhaps admit Britain could have been handed a Brexit bonus here?
I doubt it. I mean, I talked to small businesses who have given up exporting to the European Union because there's so much paperwork. When I was in government, Martin, in the coalition with the Conservatives, the Lib Dems Conservatives, we spent a great deal of time trying to get rid of red tape, which everybody said they wanted rid of. We had a system of one in, one out for regulations. In fact, if you gave them two out for one in to try and reduce red tape. Red tape's gone through the roof since we left the European Union because of all the requirements at the border. And a whole lot of small businesses have actually stopped exporting because of that. And as I say to you, trade with the European Union is down 21%.
OK, Norman Baker, we have to leave it there, but thank you, as ever, for being so convivial here on GB News. Now then, we've got some breaking news for you, and it's a major piece of breaking news just into us here at GB News. Harvey Wheeler, that's the estate agents used by Rachel Reeves to rent out her property in South London. They've apologised to her for an oversight after they did not apply for a licence on her behalf, having offered to do so. Repeat of that breaking news just in. A dramatic piece of breaking news which seems to exonerate the Chancellor Rachel Reeves. News just in from Harvey Wheeler. There are estate agents used by Rachel Reeves to rent out her property in South London in Dulwich. They've apologised to Rachel Reeves for an oversight after they did not apply for a licence on her behalf, having offered to do so. So that seems here that the estate agent is to blame. They offered to do this paperwork for Rachel Reeves. That wasn't done. It seems that the estate agent here is to blame, and the Chancellor Rachel Reeves seems to be exonerated. And plenty more to come throughout the rest of the show. But for now, if you're travelling home from work or from school, please stay safe. And now, here is your traffic and your travel update, and please stick with us.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. The M80 northbound at junction 4A experiences delays, and the M25 anti-clockwise between junctions 28 and 27 near Greater London has a collision, closing one lane. Surrey's M25 anti-clockwise is fully closed between junction 10 and 9 due to an overturned vehicle. In Durham, the A19 southbound is congested between the A182 and A181 junctions. Staffordshire's A38 northbound faces 30-minute delays. And on the trains, the Gatwick Express isn't operating between London, Victoria and Brighton. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Now, welcome back. And just to repeat on that major breaking news in these past few moments, news just coming into us here at GB News, that's Harvey Wheeler. That's the estate agents used by Rachel Reeves to rent out her property in Dulwich in South East London. They've apologised to Rachel Reeves for an, quote, oversight after they did not apply for a licence on her behalf, having offered to do so. Just to repeat that, it appears here that the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, has been exonerated, and the estate agent, Harvey Wheeler, they're an estate agent in the area in Dulwich, used by Rachel Reeves to rent out that property in Dulwich in South London. They've apologised to Rachel Reeves for an oversight after they did not apply for a licence on her behalf, having offered to do so. I'm joined back in the studio by Chris Hope, our political editor. Chris, around about an hour ago, the information came to light of new emails. We speculated as to what they may contain. Now know the truth.
Well, exactly. I'm pulling the information up now. So Harvey Wheeler, the estate agents used by Rachel Reeves, have now said sorry for an oversight. We thought this would be the case. Yeah. And that's why I think this is exonerating the Chancellor. Clearly, this emerged from a trawl of emails by Nick Joycey, who's Rachel Reeves' husband, and now an apology has been wrought, because it shows how difficult it can be, I think, getting the rules right for landlords. Maybe Rachel Reeves might be less keen to support this licensing scheme in Leeds as she has been, given we can fall foul of it.
But just to be resolutely clear, the situation, as we understand it right now, is that the estate agent had offered to fill out this piece of paperwork for her, the licence, which gave her the permission to be able to let out, the selective licence. That's compulsory in the Southwark area, South London. That cost £900, and it appears here that the Chancellor is completely exonerated. It wasn't her mistake. Yeah. The estate agent instead didn't do their work.
What we know is Harvey Wheeler has apologised. We haven't yet seen the emails produced from this trawl by Nick Joycey. The emails will probably support the story, but we can't declare it a closed issue until we've seen these emails. We're seeing them shortly. They're being redacted now, we understand, by the team around Rachel Reeves and by Number 10. But as we say here, a report on the Press Association news agency, that this estate agent Harvey Wheeler has apologised for an oversight after not applying for a licence on her behalf, having offered to do so. One would assume, we don't know yet, that the emails they've discovered will have this agent offering to do the work for Rachel Reeves or her husband Nick Joycey, and it never happened.
For now, good news for the Chancellor.
But we only have the say-so of the estate agent. We haven't yet seen.
But they wouldn't volunteer an apology.
Of course.
It's a bad news day for Harvey Wheeler, you would assume. If they haven't done their paperwork, when the truth emerges, the emails are being sent out with redacted information. We'll know more later on in the day. But for now, it appears that Rachel Reeves has been exonerated, at least for now. Thank you very much, Chris Hope. Now let's go to a break and we'll see you soon.
Hello there, good afternoon. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. After a chilly start this morning, tonight will be milder. There will be some spells of rain though, and it is going to be rather windy across much of the country, particularly across Northern Ireland, where we'll start to see outbreaks of rain this afternoon, all down to low pressure, pushing in these frontal systems, so cloud, rain, and also some quite strong gusty winds. Where we have our weather warning issued for Northern Ireland, we could see wind speeds of between 50 to 60 miles per hour. It's going to be turning blustery for all though. This band of heavy rain shifts its way eastwards into the North Sea, turning a little drier for a time as we head closer towards dawn, though we can't rule out some showers lingering around for some. Nevertheless, though, it is going to be a milder start to the day. Many towns and cities in the low double digits. So we'll see a mix of clouds, some clearer skies to start the day. There will be some showers quickly moving through though, particularly across the south, some heavy showers pushing up from the English Channel there. Some of these could be quite heavy and it is going to be quite blustery, particularly around any western coasts. But for Northern Ireland, it is going to be a much brighter start than what we saw this morning. And similar across parts of Scotland, a mix of clouds, some clearer skies towards the north, though we can't rule out a risk of showers. And that is the theme through much of the day, though some of these showers could be quite heavy. Some bring some quite intense downpours, particularly this area into the west as we head towards the afternoon. Some strong blustery winds and some heavy bands of rain. This could bring in some hail and thunder. And it is going to be quite a blustery day for all, but with the slightly blustery weather, that does bring in some milder air, so highs reaching around 16 to 17 degrees Celsius in the south. Through into the evening, for any trick-or-treaters that might be out and about, there'll be once again a mix of some drier spells and also some showers. These showers turning to quite an intense band of rain across parts of the southwest through the course of the evening. And as we progress into the weekend, the showery theme continues, though it should start to feel a little bit milder from Monday onwards.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It is 5:40, 6. You're with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, is the Treasury coming after your 2p slot machines? Well, rumoured plans for tax rises could hammer betting outlets. From high street bookies to seaside amusement piers, the wonderful end of the pier penny slot machines. Look at that. That right there is the sound and the sight of my childhood. Now, bookmakers warn the move could cost thousands of jobs and deliver a very heavy blow to the economy, particularly in our beautiful, beleaguered seaside towns. Well, I'm joined now in the studio by the Managing Director of Godden Gaming Organisation, Jeremy Godden. Jeremy, welcome to the studio. We've heard about this gambling tax. The Treasury wants parity between online and real world. The trouble is, in the real world, you've got costs. You've got expenses, huge expenses, places to physically keep open. Tell us about the industry you represent and tell us about the threat from the Treasury.
Thank you for having me. We at BACTA represent 400, and all of our members are terribly worried that our margins have been compressed since COVID. As people, our customers have suffered the cost of living crisis. We've suffered a cost of doing business crisis. A 2p is still a 2p. We haven't been able to put our prices up, and as our margins have shrunk, many of our members are now looking at how do we survive.
And in terms of the proposed tax hikes, the higher the tax hike, the worse it gets for you boys and girls. It could literally mean, hundreds and hundreds of arcades closing down. Tell us about the potential impact.
We employ over 15,000 people across the country, and there's a real potential for all of those jobs to go. That we are, we provide fun at the seaside, in the high streets. People come in week after week, month after month, and return to our venues at the seaside on their summer holidays to have fun, meet their friends in a social atmosphere, and have a nice time.
And just to put some context on the figures, Jeremy Godden, I read here that a proposed hike on machine game duty of just 5% could close 1 in 3 arcades. That's a third of all arcades, just boshed, gone. And if the duty was doubled from 20 to 40%, then every single penny arcade and amusement place in Britain, a part of our British heritage, particularly on the seasides, could simply disappear.
100%. any tax rise is going to impact jobs and impact the family businesses that have invested in our Great British seaside over generations. They want to keep trading, keep providing fun and a smile, and keep providing that entertainment, in the holidays.
Do you think there's something here around class snobbery? And the reason I say that, Nigel Farage wrote a piece in The Sun today about this, and it's like people that drink soya lattes and live in Islington, they don't go to penny arcades, they don't go to places like Margate or Blackpool, and the working class people do, and working class people prefer to have a flutter. Is there something here of the fun police clamping down on ordinary working people who just want to go to the seaside, just want to have a switch off from reality, and just want to support the local economy, just want to have some fun?
Very much so, but every parliamentarian I've engaged with and we've engaged with are very supportive of the British seaside, no matter what political party they're from.
Good.
And we are just so squeezed on margins that any tax rise will see boarded up seaside premises, more boarded up high street premises, and piers having to shutter down and fall in the sea. And so we just encourage the Chancellor to consider the losses that may come from even a small tax rise.
Well, thank you very much for joining us, Jeremy Godden, Managing Director of Godden Gaming Organisation. And let's literally hope the penny drops with Rachel Reeves and they give you a well-earned break. We need our seaside economies to be thriving, to be welcome. We don't want to see more Borsler businesses. Wish you the very best of British. Thanks for joining us today here in Westminster. Thank you. And if you're in search of some holiday sun this year, then here's a forecast for some of the top European destinations.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean all clear skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you are looking to escape the very mixed weather across the UK, well, it's going to also be mixed across much of the Mediterranean. Not everywhere. We are going to see some fine weather on Friday through parts of Greece, particularly the Greek islands. But we've got this area of low pressure bringing some heavy rain to southern Italy, showers to northern Italy as well. Mostly fine to eastern Spain for now, but some wet and windy conditions across Portugal, and they spread east, albeit slowly, through the weekend and early next week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock, only on GB News.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Secretary is urging medical professionals to prescribe having a job as a form of treatment for anxiety and depression. West Streeting wants employment to be seen as being just as vital to health as diet and exercise. His comments come as the latest figures reveal there are more than 2.8 million people of working age who are economically inactive in the UK because of long-term sickness. Joining me now is a psychotherapist and broadcaster, Lucy Beresford. Lucy, good to see you. What do you make of this story? Prescribing going to work, basically?
In effect, that's what it's doing. And on the whole, I'm fully behind it because work is a very powerful mood lifter. It works on three levels, really. It gives you a sense of structure. It gives you somewhere that you have to go and to be there at certain times, maybe fulfill certain deadlines. It also gives you a sense of purpose. And we know from a lot of studies that when you have mental illness, and particularly when you have depression or anxiety, that sense of helplessness, worthlessness can be very debilitating, and it can send you on a downward spiral, make it very hard for you to get well. And yet if you have work, if you have a sense of purpose, if you have a mission, if you like, if you have goals, if you get improvements in your work and you get promoted, all of those things can be very beneficial. And the third thing, of course, is that in the workplace, we form human connections. We are very relational creatures, human beings. We come into this world physically joined to another person, and that is our template. We are longing for connection.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
It's 5:49 now. Fury has erupted after a deportation centre at Heathrow Airport has advertised for a £31,500 a year hairdresser's job to help pamper illegal immigrants awaiting deportation. Well, the advert says the hair expert must know the, quotes, cultural needs of the people they will meet at the Heathrow Immigration Removal Centre. And I'm joined in the studio by the media campaign manager of the Taxpayers Alliance, William Yarwood. William, just when you think this country can't get any more absurd, it's VIP makeovers for deportees, an idea that surely deserves the brush off.
Yeah, absolutely, Martin. I mean, when you think about what a hairdresser actually does and, you know, how important they are to, like, the daily business life, you think, do illegal immigrants really deserve that kind of service? And also, let's be honest, if they're getting haircuts, it doesn't really signal that they're going anywhere anytime soon, does it? So I think that this advertising, this scheme is just clearly just moronic, but also it points to a wider point about this entire detention centre. They've got over a £290 million contract where they spent not just money on things like this, but money on, you know, arts and crafts classes, English classes, you know, pampered, relatively luxury life. And frankly, Martin, I don't think that illegal immigrants should be having their hair cut. The only thing that should be cut is the amount of time they spend in the UK.
Yeah, doing anything nice at the weekend? Yeah, coming back to Britain on a dinghy. I mean, seriously, it's utter nonsense. Yeah. And there's more, because there's another scheme in Edinburgh where asylum seekers will get 70% off bouncy castles.
Yeah, bouncy castles. There's a council in Swansea that's giving discounts on going to the zoo and the theatre. Wandsworth Council is giving discounts on access to line bikes. I mean, this all sounds like quite ludicrous, but there's a very serious point here, Martin. And I think we talk a lot about two-tier justice in the United Kingdom, but let's talk about something else. I think there's a two-tier access to services now in the UK where council taxpayers are paying money so that asylum seekers can have access to luxuries and freebies and nice things that ordinary council taxpayers simply just don't have access to.
Yeah, and how many old dears out there would love a free makeover? They don't get one. William Yarwood, thank you very much indeed. Now, in response to the story, the Home Office spokesperson told this: we do not directly fund these roles. And a mighty spokesperson said this role is part of our contractual obligations and is standard practice in secure environments. We continue to work closely with the Home Office to ensure services provide true value for money. Well, let's go now back to GBNews presenter Bev Turner live in Washington, D.C. because, of course, Bev Turner, The Late Show Live, is on tonight at 12. What's on your menu?
That's right, Martin. Thank you. Hello, everybody. Yeah, it's a beautiful day here in Washington. We're going to be talking to the Israeli ambassador to America tonight on The Late Show Live. Of course, that ceasefire, incredibly fragile in Gaza. Some hostages, we understand that 2 hostage remains have been returned to Israel from the Palestinians, from Hamas. But obviously, it'll be very interesting to talk to the ambassador this evening. Also, I'll tell you who's happy about the fact the sun has come out. The family that live in that house behind me, the White House, because I don't know whether fantastic Ben, our cameraman, can zoom in, but what we're looking at here is the South Lawn. Now, this is a cameraman challenge right here, because it is a long way from where we are stood, but I'm afraid this is as close as we could get today. And on the South Lawn there, is the preparations for the White House's annual Halloween celebration. Now, this has become something of a tradition. There was some very entertaining footage of Donald Trump last year putting some sweets on a child's head. We'll be showing you that on the show this evening as well. And let's see if he can do something. No doubt he will do something deeply entertaining. I am going to be there for GB News on that lawn this afternoon. Now, FLOTUS, of course, the First Lady, Mrs. Trump, she has made children her priority, the First Lady of America. And so she will be very much at front and centre of this occasion this afternoon. There will be thousands of children on that lawn. There will be children of servicemen and women, children of law enforcement. They've also invited children from foster families and adopted families. It's a really special occasion. A lot of the people who work in the White House take their children to that as well this afternoon. So I will be there, and so will you, the viewers of The Late Show Live, from midnight tonight on GB News.
Yep. You've Bev Turner there, our very own Christmas angel. You know what, looking at those lights there, it makes me realise that to have that many lights in City Cars London would probably be a hate crime. Thank you very, very much indeed for joining us, Bev Turner, there, The Late Show Live, midnight, only on GB News. Well, thanks for joining me tonight. It's been superb to have your company. Of course, up next is Jubes & Co. And tonight, presented by another Christmas angel.
Oh, the angel of death? No, not at all. I bring you good news, sort of. So the one in, one out scheme, you put one in, one out, then you take it all around, and then you end up coming back to the UK. It seems that migrants who have been sent via that scheme are not happy. They feel that they want to leave France because France aren't giving them decent houses. Well, that's quite interesting, isn't it? We'll be talking about that. Plus, it feels like Rachel Reeves may well be about to break a manifesto promise. 2p on income tax is predicted, and loads more. Stay tuned after the weather.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good afternoon. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. After a chilly start this morning, tonight will be milder. There will be some spells of rain though, and it is going to be rather windy across much of the country, particularly across Northern Ireland, where we'll start to see outbreaks of rain this afternoon, all down to low pressure, pushing in these frontal systems, so cloud, rain, and also some quite strong